Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of A Manchester Requiem, a Vampire the Masquerade Chronicle set in Manchester, England. With me tonight,
Lark and
Kit.
And Kit of Clan Malkavian, or Chris playing Kit of Clan Malkavian, I guess.
Great. So, thank you everybody for rejoining us this week. So I'll go straight into the recap, just so that everyone's refreshed. Our coterie, which exists in the Manchester in England of 2018, has found themselves in a bit of a pickle. Since being granted domain in the city under siege between the two factions of the Anarchs and the Camarilla, our coterie, during their routine patrols of their environment to make sure the area is maintained, given how close proximity it is to Anarch territory, Kit, the Malkavian member, has discovered a burnt body within the confines of the domain, a body which is mutilated in such a way as to make it recognizable as a victim of one Anarch, specifically known by the moniker of the Cook. The victim in question was a ghoul of one of the Camarilla Nosferatu members, and because of this potential political and social issues, the coterie took it upon themselves to not only dispose of the body and make sure that it wasn't discovered, but also to start looking into the person behind the actual affair, the cook in question, who, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, holds domain a very short distance away from their own, about southeast from where they currently hold sway in their domain. After hiding the body and after dealing with a few interactions with other members of the Camarilla in Manchester, the coterie have made their way together towards this domain, managed to locate where they believe this rival coterie to be located, and have started making their way there. Before we left last session, Daniel has departed your company, currently setting up shop at the local park with the car where it's been parked up, and unbeknownst to you, was responsible in the death of a local jogger, someone whose windpipe was severely damaged in the feeding of, and Daniel, unwilling to jeopardize his current involvement in the current ongoing operation by either remaining and having to deal with the police or being forced to locate or delay there for too long, left the woman to her inevitable decline. Meanwhile, you guys have managed to locate the Cheeky Friar, an old, rundown, disused fish shop, which is where you believe this coterie to be located. After surveying the area and determining that the actual flat above it was not a part of the Cheeky Friar, but was simply located above it, you circled around to the back of the actual building and witnessed one of the individuals that you believe to be a coterie mate of the cook stepping inside with a carrier bag. After listening and rolling very well, Kit, just outside the door, overheard discussions between the coterie mates, knowing more than one of them to be inside, and hearing talk of numerous subjects, including the Second Inquisition and other matters. Erring on the side of non-caution, Kit has stepped inside the building under the safety of Obfuscate, along with Silence of Death, and started making his way inside, all whilst under the distant and watchful and weary gaze of Lark, who is currently hiding from one of the alleyways or beside one of the buildings. And that is where we left off last time. So because we are in mid-scene, guys, and because I am an utter bastard, you are not going to be recovering any willpower. However, we are going to pick up from that point. So, Lark, you have witnessed... you did not, I believe, witness the individual stepping inside ahead of Kit, because Kit arrived at the back of the area before you did. So, Kit, you would have seen this woman, this short, brown-haired woman, wearing a vest and a skirt, carrying a carrier bag, unlocking the door and stepping inside and going upstairs. The door was relocked behind her. You managed to repick the lock. Using Silence of Death and the safety of Obfuscate in order to mask your existence and your activities from both the local kind and anyone potentially looking outside from the building. Although you didn't take the time to actually survey the rear of the building thoroughly, Lark would know from coming up from behind you and staying a distance away that there are no windows overlooking the rear of this building. Where it goes in and the stairway leads directly up, it cuts out into the actual flat above. And you can see that from the bottom of the stairs as you're looking up. It's a steep stairway. It comes to a single door. There is no branching off. It's just that one single door at the top. It does seem to have its own lock that you can see because there is a keyhole within it. There is no windows, but there is a spy hole. You can still hear the voices going upstairs. From what you can hear, there are 3 active voices, and there is the sound of someone breathing, which is discernible to you above all of the other voices. 3 distinct voices that you can make out. But you can't really make out what they're saying after a while. Because although you fixated on them mentioning the Second Inquisition, them discussing bits and pieces, there are numerous walls that you have to listen through. And it's difficult for you to kind of reach out with your senses and focus on everything they're saying because you also have the din of traffic, you have the din of people talking, and it's hard for you to kind of separate your focus because your audio, especially now it's released and giving you all this new information and making you feel more alert and alive in an ironic sense. It's trying to pull everything in. It's trying to pull in the sounds of the traffic. It's trying to pull in the sound of footsteps. It's trying to pull in the sound of breathing. And more importantly, the sound of pumping blood. It's currently circling through the veins of everybody around you. So although you do manage to get this insight in the number of people up there, brief glimpses of what they're talking about, it takes your self-control to reel that back in and stop yourself from becoming overloaded. So you were heading inside, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Lark, you would have noticed that as Kit remains there, because he did enter into Obfuscate whilst you were in his company, so you do see him. You don't hear him. Everything he is doing, all the movements he's doing to unlock the door, and as he steps inside and the door closes behind him, there is no sound. Even though the door doesn't gently close, it shuts. There is no sound to it. Which, knowing Kit, even in the brief sense that you do, in fact, Kit, would you have shared the extent of your Obfuscate abilities with your coterie mates?
I think Kit's been hunting with Lark before because they got the
yeah. So you know that this is the kind of ability that he has, the mastery over Obfuscate, that he can mask his sound, which is it's reassuring to you to know that even though he's going inside, he does have these precautions set up because it's something that you would have noted, being as perceptive as you are of things going around. But you do see him vanish inside, which is worrying, and the door shut behind him. So currently out on this the street, and it's pretty busy at this time. So it's about 2000 hours in the evening. So it's about 8 o'clock, and there are numerous people moving back and forth. And the fact it is Sunday means it's not early enough for them to be turning in preparation for a work week. People are still out and about. There's not that, there's no shops really open because it's a Sunday, but people are still going out, still meeting, still making the most of their time off on the weekend. So there are numerous people around. What are you doing, Lark, now that you can no longer see your coterie mate? You have no idea where Daniel is.
Glancing around, she's going to scout the building a little bit more. Okay. I know you mentioned there are no windows at the back, but most buildings have 2 exits for fire safety reasons. So she's going to circle the building and see if there are any other ways out that she should keep an eye on. And if nothing turns up, she will eventually approach the door that Kit disappeared down and see if she can get a better ear on what's going on.
Okay. So breaking away from where you currently are against the side of the building, you start making your slow way around the outside, keeping your distance enough so that if there does happen to be a second window that you can't see from your current position, anyone glancing out isn't going to notice this person taking slow stock of their surroundings. And you do note that although you cannot see any windows on the side, and you do see that one entrance, the side of the actual building itself does have a second entrance, but it's close enough to the actual front of the chip shop that you can't tell whether or not it's connected to the actual flat above, or if it's a rear entrance to the actual chip shop below. And since they're both sealed and you don't know the internal layout of this building, it's difficult for you to tell. But there are 3 entrances to this building itself. You've got the front entrance, which is masked by those windows that decorate it or make it clear that it's a chip shop. Behind that, you have the single entrance, which is where Kit stepped inside. And along if you're looking directly at it, the right-hand side of the building, you have a single doorway that looks like a fire exit. Based upon the signs and logos put on it. And it is coupled by a few bins, so it does suggest its purpose.
Is there any, in this back alley, is there any crap strewn about wooden stuff?
Wooden stuff? There is, actually, let me double check something.
Conveniently shattered pallet by any chance?
So there is something remotely wooden that you can determine amongst the refuge. There is what looks to be an old wooden chair, the kind that you'd probably have stowed away in a back office or similar. But the condition of the wood is such, and it's been out for a while, that it suggests that it's rotten. You're not sure how long this chip shop has been closed, but it's been clear that the refuge that is here, based upon smell alone, has been here for a while. There's quite a few bin bags which are have holes in them for where rats or similar pests have managed to peck at them, because these aren't big industrial bins. These are small black plastic round normal lid bins, and the lids weren't ever placed on them properly because the actual bins themselves are overflowing, so it's not possible to do that. But it's clear that the pests have been at them, so the smell is quite prevalent in this area. And the wood itself, whilst you could probably break a leg off, is not the best condition. It does look quite rotten.
Okay, so no good for my intended purpose if I tried.
You wouldn't know until you tried.
Is there any way to is it noisy enough around here that I could potentially break something off or just keep it on me?
Yeah, there's enough people talking and stuff. I mean, obviously, if you start hacking the crap into it to try and get off, but it's given its current condition, it wouldn't take much for you to try and pull something free.
Just see if I can do that quickly before I head to the door. Just,
Sure. I mean, you take the actual chair out of the bin, and it feels quite slimy from where it's been left in with all the worn food and similar. But you manage to perch it up against the wood, against the stonework. Do a quick glance around, make sure that the people that are going past aren't glancing down your way, and not many people are. Most people that are going about now are mostly going in pairs, or they have their headphones in, or they're on their phones. Similar, they're occupied in what they're doing, and you time it so that once people have gone past and there's no one going in front and behind you, you bring your foot down at an angle quite solidly on the back of the wood, and it snaps. You can hear the wood just splinters away. It's not the best stake you could potentially find. It's certainly not, a smooth kind of shaft that you can just drive in. It's kind of like a horseshoe shape from where you've taken the back of the actual wood off. But it's sharp enough where if you were to drive it with enough force, it would, it'd certainly breach your body.
All right. So if possible, she'll sort of fit that in the just back of her pants that she's wearing, if it fits. And then
it does. It's awkward as hell, but it goes in.
It's fine. And then head to the door and just keep an ear out.
Okay, so you start cutting back around. Kit, since you went inside and you closed the door behind you, the actual corridor that you're in is dark. Closing the door behind you out of necessity, just to make sure that people don't notice the fact that this door is wide open, leading into a stairway. There is a single light high up above you from where the actual ceiling levels out, but it's not lit. Whoever made their way up here beforehand didn't turn on the electronics, or if they did, it got turned off immediately after when they came up. So you can't really see, but the steps themselves are narrow and steep enough where you can kind of plot their progression going forwards, because you don't have all specs for heightened senses. No, you do have heightened senses.
I have heightened senses. It's not on at the minute because of issues from last time.
Yeah. So you're plotting your progression going up, and it is a very steep staircase. It's the kind of one where you think that light was probably put in for safety reasons more than anything else, because this is treacherous stairs to go up and down. But you managed to get your way all the way up to the top, and the door that's actually in here appears more solid than the door that you've just come through. It's very thick wood. The spy hole that you're looking through, or rather that you can see at eye level, does give a decent enough angle of this small kind of square platform that separates the stairs from the actual door itself. And you can see a number of what looks to be a very old welcome mat that's on the floor, which is grimy as absolute fuck. And there's a couple of sets of shoes, which themselves look quite old and disused, if the cobwebs are anything to go by, that are currently within the actual shoe themselves. It makes it clear that this place has certainly not seen use for a good amount of time. But you can't really hear the voices inside anymore without the benefits of Auspex. And every time you drop it, it is a strict, sudden, and painful reminder to you of just how blind the human is. And every time that you experience that blindness, there is a very strong, overwhelming impulse within you to just for a moment, just flick it back on. You might hear shit in there that's important, and there's always that internal dialogue going on about just use it a bit longer, because it is an addictive power. All of the abilities of the Kindred are addictive, but it feels like you've gone from experiencing high definition, crisp, crystal clear footage, going back to the first screen television that was ever made. A tiny little box that you can hardly see anything on, you can't really hear. It's the contrast is striking. But you managed to push that back down. And what are you going to do? You've got this door in front of you.
Can I see any security cameras in the hallway to start with, just as a glance at the start?
No.
Okay, so Kit will come up against the thick door. He's going to duck down as he comes up the top of the stairs, so hopefully keep out of sight of the spy. Or someone is looking up there, and he's just going to get to the door and just try to listen best he can without heightened senses. That is provided he's not got the feeling that he needs to go through the door quickly at all.
Okay, so do wits and awareness for me. Okay, so given this, I'm assuming you wouldn't have just gone up the stairs relying entirely on obfuscate just to mask your approach. Sorry?
So I was just thinking wits is a mental thing, so I'm a dice down on that at the minute.
Yep. Would you have gone up the stairs quite quickly relying on obfuscate, or would you have taken your time?
Medium quickly, I think.
Okay.
He's got cat's grace, so he's not afraid of falling or anything.
Yeah.
He's obviously going to make noise, so yeah, it's not going to hang around.
All right, so you'll get a chance to do some stuff there before Lark makes it to the door, especially given that she was taking her time to try and subtly break this makeshift stake off in front of people or away from people.
I should really just carry one.
Yeah. What did you roll?
I rolled quite well actually. I got 4 successes.
4 successes. Okay. So despite the fact that you don't have your specs up, and despite the fact that this door is quite a thick door, you can make out more sounds on the inside. Very, very close to where you currently are situated, with your ear quite close to the door, you can hear the sound of footsteps. Quite heavy, slow footsteps, almost like someone is pacing. Because there's a repeated number of steps that you manage to mark, because it's the kind of thing you'd pay attention to, the number of steps, and based upon it, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, delay, 1, 2, and then they're receding. So someone is pitching away from you and then coming back. But on the further away and less clearly, you can hear quite muted talk, almost as though people are discussing something quietly. Again, it's those 3 voices. One sounds quite rasping, another one sounds quite clear and crisp, and another one is feminine. But other than that, you can't really make out what they're saying. It is muffled, and it's quite clear that the thing that they're discussing, they're almost discussing as though they're trying to keep quiet, or disguised, or masked. Which is worrying, Because if they didn't know if they weren't afraid of someone overhearing, they wouldn't be keeping their voices down. So it is worrying. But the other thing that you note, because your beast pulls your attention back to it, is the fact that the person that's moving back and forth is breathing, which immediately gets your beast to spike. Not given your hunger enough to in any way override what you're doing or draw focus detrimentally, but your beast is keenly aware that you are very, very close to something which is worthy of its attention, and that is something that is living. And that is, based upon what you managed to roll, the individual which is pacing not too far away.
If Kit's not feeling a compulsion to go anywhere or do anything, he's going to stay where he is for a minute and listen. If the compulsions are stopped, then this is obviously where he's supposed to be.
Yeah. There is that pain in the back of your neck, that familiar and yet never quite... It's weird. You're used to this pain at this point, but it is never something that you are okay with. It's always feel alien and unnatural to you. It's never something that you can basically just distract yourself with another task and just forget about. It's always there, present at the forefront of your mind. It's a bit like your hunger in that way. Because no matter what you do, if you are feeling hungry, you are never going to be able to forget that you're feeling hungry. And it's the same with this sensation in the base of your mind. So it's still there, but it's not overwhelming like when you were driving before, or when it was hinting that you leave the rail yard. It's there and it's subtle, but it's enough to kind of ground you in place and give you that moment of indecisiveness, whether or not you're supposed to remain here or you're supposed to do more. It's kind of on that cusp of, it's hard for you to determine exactly what it's trying to get you to do.
So Kit will feel a bit nervous at this. It's difficult when you've got these instructions and it's not clear. It's nice, at least painful, but it's nice when it's clear. Kit's not keen on things that are unclear. So he will check his belongings on him. He'll check his lockpicks are in place. Just run a thumb over them. He'll check that he's got his knife in his pocket.
It's all there. It's all exactly where you left it.
Stay where he is for the minute, just listening, see whether he can pick up something that will give him some indication of what he's supposed to do next.
Okay, so you're delaying there for a moment. So Lark, you would have had time to get this stake, this horseshoe-shaped stake, and kind of wedge it in the back. It's very, very uncomfortable. You can feel the splinters kind of grinding into the skin. Although you're not living to the degree anymore where it would be uncomfortable, you know that based upon the kind of sensation of it going against your lower back, that you've probably got, a half dozen or so splinters from where you've ground it into against the lower part of your back. But you've stepped away from the corner around this alleyway and moved back towards this front door. People are moving past you, but no one's really paying any sort of attention. Most of the traffic's on the other side of the street rather than this one, which appears to be more of a residential block than anything else. So you've managed to make it back to that door. What are you doing?
How long has Kit been away at this point?
At this point, about 2 to 5 minutes.
Okay. It's going to feel a lot longer, I assume.
Yeah.
So the door that he went through, is it unlocked?
Are you trying it?
Yeah.
Okay. So you grab the door handle. It's not locked. He didn't lock it behind him.
Is it that noisy?
It's certainly noisier than when he went through it, because you heard nothing then. And just like someone that is trying purposefully to be quiet, every sound suddenly feels amplified beyond belief. So that pulling of the door, you can hear it over the din of people around you, and it's you're uncomfortably aware of just how loud that sounds.
Yeah, not great.
It's certainly loud to you, Kit, who's trying to focus on what you're doing. You can hear down below you that sound of that door opening.
Yeah. That'll stop her for sure, just for a moment of just But then she'll wait.
Okay.
And if there is any sort of commotion that comes by, a rattling truck, anything like that, she'll take her moment to try and slip in. But otherwise, she's just sort of keeping an ear out in case she hears a commotion of some kind.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, the door's part way open, so you just bide your time a bit more until there is a truck pulling around the side or a bus pulling around the side, or any number of cars coming around that can just mask it as you're pulling the door. The door itself is just as old as you'd expect it to be. Enough where it's given, even though it's a metal door, there is a kind of on the hinge as it pulls, and you manage to slip in quickly and pull it shut behind you. Unlike when Kit did it, there is the sound of as you pull it, but you think it was masked by the sound of the traffic coming around the corner. Do me a Dex plus stealth.
Cool. I get a +1 for break-in.
Sure. I mean, you're not really breaking in at this point.
It's not my house. So you get 1, 2, 3, 3 successes.
Okay.
Nothing special.
Okay. Kit, you certainly hear her coming through the door. And as you glance back down, you can see Lark kind of pulling it, stopping, and then glancing up and seeing, and you can see him perched at the top, quite low, with his face almost pressed against this wooden door at the top, just looking down at you from up on top. And it's difficult for you to actually make him fully out, although you spent more time out in the dark even before you died, to the degree where you've got decent enough night vision. You can make out his silhouette, and you can certainly make out his eyes, kind of that soft, kind of almost feline glint, as you're staring up at him. And you both make eye contact. You can't hear anything he's doing, even as his hand is like kind of pressed against the door. You can certainly hear her at the bottom, but then again, when there is no sound around you, everything else sounds louder or more distinct. What are you two currently doing?
The Kit will hold a finger up to his mouth.
Okay.
She'll gesture back.
I think Kit will come back down the stairs. So we're being timed here. I can hear the clicker.
What clicker?
Uh-oh.
Kit will come back down the stairs, and if he is allowed, and then he can walk back up with Lark, and then she should be covered by his silence of death. So we both get up the stairs.
So he descends towards you, and it's soundless. His movements coming back down, and then as he reaches you, all of a sudden the world around you just goes quiet. You can still hear noises off in the distance and stuff, but as you're making these steps up the stairs, all of a sudden everything you're doing is just silent. And he leads you all the way back up to the top of the stairs. The actual door itself, you can see all the disused shoes around, the really muddied, old, very worn away welcome mat, the solid door itself, and the eye hole that's slightly higher positioned than your actual height. Now that you actually are here and you can see a bit better, there is another step after this platform, which is where the door actually comes out. So the actual door itself is a step higher than, it's not on a level with you, so it explains the actual height. But the actual eye hole, because of this, actually does have a decent field of view, which is probably why Kit was keeping quite low.
She'll get to his level. He's crouched down. Figures he has good reason.
Okay. What do you two want to do?
So Kit will gesture towards the lock in a sort of questioning fashion.
Sorry, you said you gestured to it?
Yeah, well, you won't be able to hear him if he talks, so
yeah.
he's just going to point at it.
Mine.
Yeah. Okay. So she's going to be hearing, of course, everything he did. Have they stopped speaking?
Do wits plus awareness yourself as well.
Okay. So that's a messy crit. So it's 3. So 1 crits are 4, correct? So 5.
Criticals are 4, yeah.
Yeah, so 5.
But it's a messy crit.
But it's a messy crit.
Okay.
And I don't want to willpower it because we're not going to use that. Oh.
Okay. So you listen, and beyond the silence that surrounds you, the sounds beyond this door are quite distinct. You can make out the same things that Kit did. You can make out 2 voices, one which is rasping, and it's very difficult to tell whether or not it's male or female in tone. One that is clearly quite appealing in the quality of voice, is also male, and then there's a female voice, which is probably the one that's kept lowest. There is the sound of footsteps receding and coming close, and then there's the sound of breathing. And you stop and you pay more attention, and then there's the sound of blood pumping. And whereas Kit had managed to focus on this and then note it and move on and subdue his beast, your beast is a little less hesitant in its ferocity of desire to gain the attention. And especially since you're a bit more hungry than Kit was, it's very, very, very keen to make itself known and make its intention known to you. And the moment that it realizes there is food here, and that it's, as far as it's concerned, away from Kine and therefore safe, its drive hits you with a suddenness that you do not expect. Your hunger goes up by 1. However, you do make out the names before this drive begins to draw in your attention. And Kit, you do recognize there's a subtle shift in her, because she suddenly stops and twists her head in the direction where you know that sound of footsteps to be coming from. And the way that her hand is currently pressed upon behind her back, almost like she's clutching at something, you can hear the sound of wood beginning to creak, almost as though it's being twisted or gripped. And it's almost like wood's been forced into a vice. You can hear it slowly splintering from a subtle pressure. Not an overwhelming one, but it's enough to kind of get your attention that she's kind of keying in. Yeah. But you do make out the name Andrew Foley. You make out Second Inquisition. You make out Carmine Hurst, or Carmine specifically. And you realize that throughout all the din, what is currently the discussion, although you can make out the specific words, you gain enough of it to determine that they are basically planning a very quick, very quick but almost hesitant transfer over to Carmine. And the mention, whenever they seem to reference the movement towards Carmine, they reference this Foley individual. But every time that Foley is brought up, and moving to Carmine's location is the focus of this brief discussion. But it's a very back and forth, very rapid, almost circulatory discussion. There is always mention of the threat of the Inquisition.
Okay.
And the individual with the rasping voice is the only one that refers to the Second Inquisition as First Light.
Okay.
But it's very clear on their tone that they are it's almost like they're speaking under a. They're keeping their voices low, but they're also speaking like people which are very, very aware they have a time limit.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very rapid back and forth discussion. The only one that seems to be speaking with any measure of kind of composure in the sense of not feeling rushed is the male individual, the one that has the voice which is quite soothing to hear it. Although his is the voice that you can probably make out the least.
Okay. So in regards to gesturing at the log kit, she's actually going to... Oh no, she's fucking hungry. I want to say she says no.
No.
But now she's not so sure. She'll raise an eyebrow at you as to ask if you're going in. If you plan to go in.
Has Kit got any further directions?
It's just that same sensation at the base of your brain. Like a rusty nail being kind of slowly twisted. It's not being pushed forwards in. It's not being pushed further in. It's not being pulled out. It's just being turned. This is the uncomfortable sensation of movement of pressure in the same spot, rather than it widening the gap or being pulled loose.
So, Kit will look at Lark for a while, and then he'll get his lockpicks out.
Okay.
He's not good at subtlety anyway, and she looks like she wants to go in.
Cool.
So I think.
Just peckish.
Peckish. Cool. So make your check then.
Okay.
Dex plus larceny. Specialty will apply.
So good. 2 successes. I'm going to willpower that, I think.
Okay. What's your current willpowers?
I'm down to 4 now out of 5.
Okay. Lark?
What's my willpower at? 2.
Not much better. I've got 3 successes.
Okay. Fortunately for you, this is not an old lock. Or it's not a new lock, rather. It seems to have not been changed since the actual door was put in place. And it does take you a good long moment. There is no sounds of you doing this, which is probably a saving grace. But the actual difficulty of it works kind of against your favor in that it's difficult for you to actually perceive the actual sound of the clicking as you're trying to shift the actual lock itself. And with nothing but the slight vibrations in your finger and the actual resistance met by the lockpicks, you're actually slowly working your way through this lock until you hear it. Or rather, you feel it kind of twist and then meet resistance and then stop and then turn. And then as you kind of reach up and test the handle slowly, the door comes soundlessly away from the edge of its bracket, suggesting that it can be opened.
So Kit will move slightly away from the door, so Lark has a clear way through if she wants to go. And he's going to carefully put his lockpicks away first.
What do we see on the other side as soon as it's cracked open?
Okay. You're going to have to open it more than a crack. Given how close it is to where the wall is, you can't kind of open it and then...
Yeah.
Peek.
Bad idea. It's a bad idea. All right. Push it open a little bit further. Let's see what we can see.
Okay. Wide enough for both of you or wide enough for one of you?
For myself just now.
Okay. So you move Kit aside from where he's been working on the lockpicks. And Kit, you're shunted to one side. You can't see what's beyond this door. But as you open it, Lark, the first thing that becomes apparent to you is that almost directly in front of this door, there is a chair. One of the old kind of fold-out metal chairs, which is perched at an angle against the door immediately to the left, wedging this door shut. and based upon where Kit is currently stood, you can't quite make out any sounds from the direct other side of this door, but it seems to be the rough direction from where you heard the footsteps previous.
Right.
Ahead of you, directly ahead of you, is a stunted corridor, which leads forwards, and there's 3 doorways going off in this corridor. There's 2 directly to your left, including the one that is currently wedged shut with this door, and there is one to your right, about halfway between the end of this stunted corridor and yourself. So there's a single room to your right, there's 2 rooms to your left. Where this corridor comes out towards the end, it turns around the corner, which seems to be going towards a living space. And you can tell that only because you can see the back of a chair just visible from where you currently stand. Past that chair, against a roof which is sloped, coming in towards the room, you can see angled windows which look out towards the front of the building, which are the windows that you noticed before. It's down there and around that corner that you can hear voices. But the thing that you note, because it takes you a moment as you're looking, is not all of the voices are currently stood around that corner, because it takes you a moment to realize that the reason why the window looks so small is because someone stood in front of it. And it takes you a moment to realize that this individual that is currently there speaking has direct line of sight of that door.
Of us.
But he is not currently looking at it.
Yeah, close the door. Because he
Okay.
can see us, correct? Well, he could see us if he turned.
In theory.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Alright, so that is problematic on several levels, so I'm going to discreetly try and close the door again, and then just look at Kit and shake my head. Like, it's a terrible idea. Yeah, no. She's not going to push this because it feels like a dead end. At best, listening, trying to pick up more.
Okay.
Unless Kit wants to do otherwise.
Okay. Do me a favor, since so you're just literally shaking your head.
Yeah.
Or are you trying to convey more?
To Kit? Just because if we were to move at all, we would be seen.
Okay, so you're trying to convey that as well. Do me a favor, roll intelligence plus... No, Kit, roll intelligence plus insight. Because this is silence, your progression is going to hinge entirely on whether or not you can actually tell what she's saying, and it's been made clear throughout this chronicle so far that you cannot read people well.
No, especially not at the minute. So that's an intelligence roll.
Not even a head shake? Damn.
No, I mean, a head shake you can get, but a head
Yeah.
shake can mean, in this situation,
True.
numerous
Yeah.
things. It can mean,
fair.
no, we can't go in, or no, we should leave, or it's difficult to get a head shake and mean that, and take that to mean directly ahead of us is someone that could potentially turn and see us entering into this place, were we not to do so carefully.
Yes.
Also, I am hungry, and there is deliciousness on the other side of this door.
Mm-hmm.
What did you get?
2 successes, actually, so
Okay.
It was a really good one for me.
Okay, so she is nervous. However, whether or not she means to convey it or not, there is a reluctance from Lark to leave. Although it is a reluctance which is shown more in the manner that she is currently still gripping that door handle. And although she is trying to convey to you with that shake of the head what you feel to be it's not safe to proceed, the 2 things that kind of immediately draw your attention beyond that is the way that she is clinging to that door, which, Lark, you're unaware you're doing, but also that needling sensation in the base of your skull is still incessant. Hasn't picked up, it hasn't lessened, but it's still incessant. But it's clear that it might not be safe for her to go in.
Okay, so Kit will nod and gesture towards the door handle again. To point her hand on it.
Sorry?
Kit will gesture towards Lark's hand on the door handle. Just like...
Yeah, okay. To pull it shut. Or
Okay.
to take it away.
Oh, didn't you shut the door at that point?
I did.
Okay.
I was just being clear.
Okay.
Okay, so if there's space, then Kit will go through the door. Well, he'll open it, look through.
Okay.
And
So you swap positions. Lark, you move out of the way, and Kit moves in and begins to slowly pull the door. And Kit, you see, do me a favor. Roll. Do. Trying to find it now. Roll wits plus obfuscate.
Obfuscate.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, not rolling well today. One success so far. I'm gonna willpower that.
Yes.
Yes, I think it's one that needs willpower.
Oh, God.
4 successes.
Hmm.
Remind me, do ties go to the active player?
Yes, yeah, they go to
You
the...
lucky sod.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you pull the door open, and immediately you freeze because directly on the other side of the door, staring down the way towards the chair directly in front of you, looks to be a hooded individual. He's quite needly, quite thin, based upon the silhouette and the light behind them. Their arms folded, looking directly ahead, but still speaking. And every time they speak, there's a rasp to their voice. It's not a massively discernible one that is like painful to hear, but it's almost like someone that's speaking with a voice which is in the midst of quite a heavy, almost like a throat infection or similar. And then looking their head towards the door, and then just as you're kind of thinking, shit, I need to shut this door, someone says something on the other side, which immediately makes them turn and just look, and then unfold their arms and then just move, not completely out of this alleyway to where they couldn't see you if they turned their head, but enough where their attention is more firmly towards this discussion that's going on. And you can see the 3 doorways, the one on the right and the 2 directly ahead of you, and directly in front of this door, that metal chair, which is currently at an angle and fixed underneath the door handle of the door directly to your left, blocking it from opening.
Okay, so he's now not looking. Are any of the other doorways open?
No, all 3 are shut.
Shut. Kit getting any improvement in his guidance there, or is this...
It's really hard for you to tell. It's one of those incessant ones that's just not going, but it's not intensifying.
So Kit is in the right place, but he's not necessarily doing the right thing, he thinks. He was definitely supposed to come up here, he knows that. But sitting outside the door is not doing what he's supposed to be doing. So he needs to do something else. So if he thinks he's got a good enough chance, he's going to go through the door and then just push it closed behind him.
Okay. Make another roll for me.
This is obfuscate again.
Yep.
Slightly better. 5 successes.
Okay.
That's obviously what we're supposed to do.
There's a very strong moment, Lark, where you kind of want to reach out and grab him, because as he's watching, that kind of moment of you're expecting him to shut the door and turn around and agree with you, this is a bad idea, suddenly goes out the window when he pulls the door open and slips forwards. And you kind of have to immediately move forwards and then catch yourself in between whether or not you want to pull that door open and go with him, or you want to shut the door. Which of the 2 are you doing?
Quick question: is there anywhere I can't obfuscate? I missed that.
Yeah.
If is there anywhere?
Do you know what clan
mentioned
has
this already,
obfuscate?
right? Yeah. So I think if she's hungry, this is so dumb. She's going to let him go through the door.
Okay.
I have nowhere to hide. That's the problem. And I do
There
want
are
food.
3 doors.
I can't be silenced like him. I'll be seen. I'll blow
If you
all
move
over
with
cover.
him and you're quick, you can probably get a door open before he passes beyond the field. But a single, any sort of fuck up or you taking too long to do something in this corridor means that that individual could turn. He is obfuscated. You are not.
Sorry, I
But
realize that. Yeah,
the moment
but
he moves away from that door, you are no longer protected by Silence of Death or Obfuscate in order to go through this door.
yeah, no, this is terrible. God damn it, Kit. No, he can obfuscate. She's going to hang in the hall, let him go, and she's going to listen. Because if anything happens, she'll do something, but she's staying back.
Are you shutting the door?
Yes.
Okay. So you kind of pause on that moment of indecision of whether or not to go with him or shut that door. And after a few moments, your rational side of your brain kicks out over the side that's going, yay, food! And shut the door.
It's not that easy.
And then
Unless
all of a sudden
my-
that's replaced with an equally bad sensation of all of a sudden you are blind. And as you pull your hand away from the door and your fingers leave the door handle, you can hear as the door handle flicks back up. And it makes it painfully aware to you that Kit is further in now. By necessity, because he has to step around that chair in order to actually progress in. So you are no longer close enough that your sound is being masked. Kit, the door shuts behind you. You don't hear it shut, but you hear the door handle go. And you can see directly ahead of you that this individual is side on, and only through the virtue of having this hood down is his peripheral blocked from seeing you. You have 2 doorways, one that's blocked with the door with the chair immediately to your left. You have one slightly ahead, closer to them, and you have one on your right. This individual is speaking. You can hear 2 other voices ahead of him that you can't see.
Is there any indication of which way Kit should go? In the back of his head?
None.
Kit will go. Is it right? Isn't it opposite the blocked door?
Okay, actually,
Got a feeling they should
if
unblock
you're
the door.
willing to risk a moment to focus on the sensation, we can see.
Yeah, Kit will do that. He's reliant on it. I think he will
Cool.
take a moment. He's obfuscated, so he's going to rely on that to take a
All right.
moment and try and
Okay,
focus.
so roll. Wits plus awareness plus clan, your Bane level.
So it's wits plus awareness minus Bane level plus Bane
Plus
level.
Bane level.
Ooh. That is. Oh no, that's okay. Cool. That is 3 successes.
Okay. The sensation you're getting is that way,
Which is the blocked door.
towards the blocked door.
Where it would be.
And it only feels that way because it feels almost as though that rusty nail, which is perched on the edge of your base of your skull, is twisting and turning in its hinge. And it's a painful sensation, and it's to the degree where you feel your head kind of tilting, almost as though doing so will align the nail and stop it from turning even more. But as you stop and you turn and you glance back towards the door, you can just hear those footsteps going closer, and then going away,
And they're
and then
in
going,
the-
and then coming closer and vanishing, and then all of a sudden the steps continue again.
So.
What
Kit's
did you roll
gonna-
before? How many successes?
3. Kit's gonna move quickly then, because it's gonna be noticed. He might be obfuscated, but his actions will be noticeable. So he's gonna unblock the door.
Okay.
If it's possible to balance the chair next to the door so it's not too obvious, then he might do that. If not, he's going to move it across the corridor.
Okay. So it's easy enough to kind of lift the chair out. It's not wedged to the degree where it's going to, and it's a folding chair. So by folding it in, you kind of create enough leverage where you can shift it out from underneath and perch it against the other wall. So there is now nothing blocking this door.
Kit will now open the door and go in.
Okay. Cool.
He's going to step inside as soon as he's through, so he's not blocking the door for as little as possible.
Lark, what are you currently doing?
God. Questioning my life choices as usual. She'll put on, you said it's completely dark in this hallway. She has,
In the corridor you're in, yeah.
Yeah. It's not huge, right? Like, there's not areas that I can't see. As in, are there areas that I couldn't see prior to this? Like,
No, it's literally just a door at the bottom, stairs a half meter in front of it. They go up steep, quite narrow stairs. They come out onto an equal-sized platform, and then there's a step, and the doorway is flush with that step.
Okay. So
and that on that platform is where you're currently squatted.
Cool. Okay. Because I didn't want to thought about using Eyes of the Beast, but that's fine. She's got a growing concern right now that, given the conversation, she overheard that there's going to be a trade-off of some kind, and that somebody might be arriving soon. God damn it. She's cursing Kit's name at the moment, and is going to, and I realize this isn't doing much, but she is keeping an eye out in case there's commotion in there, in case he's spotted, in case anything happens. She's prepping herself for bad news.
Okay. Roll me another wits plus awareness.
Okay. Oops. Jesus. One. Okay, so it's a happy crit.
Okay.
So that's 4. 7.
7.
7. I'm taking a
Okay,
picture.
cool. All right, good. Kit, you've opened the door, and you stepped inside and closed it. And the individual that you see in front of you, you kind of lock eyes with, because he glances towards the door, and then kind of frowns. And as he steps towards it, you pull the door shut, and he stops. And his hand goes to his side, but he stops there as well because there's nothing currently there. But you notice the individual that's in front of you looks to be a man in his early 30s. He's clean shaven and he's solidly built. And it's clear from the flush of his skin, which is illuminated by the desk lamp, which is currently over in the corner, because where you currently are is a bedroom. There's a double bed, which is in disarray. Besides that, you can see a small corner table, and there's a light on it, but it's a light that's powered by its own battery. It's not connected up to the mains. And you can see opposite that there is a dresser table, and there is a large kind of oval mirror on it, which is looking back onto the room. There is curtains in front of stone, almost like they were fixed there, and there was a window there, but the window's long been filled in. And he is glancing back towards the door, and the clothes he's in look to be quite nondescript. But what immediately draws your attention as you lock eyes with him is the way that his hand went down to his side, almost as though he was reaching for something that's not currently there. But the way he's looking at the door is very cautious, and he's slowly taking a step back. Which is about the time, Lark, that you notice that the voices in the room beyond stop after someone says, "Hold." and then there is silence. But Kit's not focused on that. He's focused on this individual that's in front of him, that's just looking ahead. And then after a moment, he kind of glances towards the door, takes a step towards it, and then his footsteps stop making noise, and he stops, glances down, looks up. Because although he's looking down onto what looks to be shattered glass, there is no sound coming from it. He looks up again, and then he opens his mouth almost like he's about to speak, but there's no sound. And he frowns and takes a step back. And then he's looking in the rough direction of where Kit is. And then he says, quite loudly, "Someone in here." What are you doing? Both of you. Lark first, given the successes she got.
Son of a bitch. How far was that door from the door?
Directly in front of you.
So I open up and it's right.
You open up, and about 2 foot in front of you, there's the metal chair. Or was the metal chair. But as far as you're aware, the metal chair is still there, because you didn't hear it getting moved.
Yeah. Ha! Fuck. Okay, and how far away was the guy at the end of the hall? How many meters?
5 meters, 6 meters.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna give Kit a whole 5 seconds to have heard that as well and try to make his exit.
Okay.
And if I don't hear him...
That'll mean you're skipping this round of combat.
Oh shit. Okay, that's fair. Basically, I want to... Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
Yep.
Right. In that case, Kit. You don't hear the individuals on the other side of the door. You're close enough now that there is no sound as that door opens behind you. However, given that he did let out a shout, what are you intending to do?
There's no windows in this room, are there? Because it's
nope.
Locked in, so Kit would probably be leaving again. Well, unless he has strong inclinations to.
You do.
Otherwise, he does. He needs to.
The moment you see this individual, it's like that nail, which was on the perch of your skull, has suddenly been driven in with a hammer.
Okay. No indication of what he needs to do to him.
Nope.
This is the breathing guy, isn't it? You can tell he's alive.
Yeah. You can tell from the flush of his skin. More importantly, you can tell from the beating sound of blood that you even now can pick up on, even though you're not hungry. Well, you're hungry. You're always hungry, but not to the degree that other individuals are. You can pick up on that.
So Kit knows he either needs to leave with this individual or he needs to probably kill him at this point. I think there's not that many options. Killing's not good, but he needs to be here with this individual, and the individual needs to leave, and he's not seeming to want to leave at the minute. Kit will move towards him, I think.
Okay. Doing what?
See if he can, circle around him and try and get him out the door, I guess, to start with.
Okay.
So he's used to not trying to talk. He doesn't want to drop Silence of Death at the minute, so he's going to...
You're dropping Silence of Death?
Not going to keep that up, but Kit will just try and circle around him and see whether he goes towards the door and we can leave. Okay.
So, the moment that you begin moving, are you going to grab him?
If he backs away from me, then Kit will grab him. If he moves towards the door, then Kit will let him go on his own.
All right. Okay, so just do me one quick roll of wits plus awareness. Minus your clan bane.
Yep. Two successes.
Okay. As you are focusing on moving towards him, there is the briefest of moments where that clarity of not focusing on your that need or sensation, not focusing on anything else, draws you to the sensation that of all the sounds in this room, the one that is curiously absent, it's like the ticking of a clock, which is always ticking and then suddenly stops. You pick up on it, and it's the sound that there is no voices anymore. And there hasn't been for a few moments. And that draws you onto the sensation that although you can't hear it, you feel the brief brush of wind against the back of your neck as the door behind you is opened. So there is someone directly behind you.
In that case, Kit will move as fast as possible behind the alive guy.
Okay. So, all right, do me... Right, remind me of your Dex plus Wits.
Dex plus Wits is 7 dice, although Clambane would be 6 at the minute.
Okay. 7 dice. Right, okay. Roll Dex plus Wits.
Two successes.
Okay. So, as you are about to move, you see out of the very corner of your eye what looks to be a pallid, knotted finger come around the corner of your vision. And the fingers themselves look almost as though there are 3 separate joints in each of them. As they kind of snake around, the fingers kind of twist, and then they scope towards you. So I need you to do... it's in your choice whether or not you want to make this 2-way, or if you want to make it 1-way. It's going to be strength plus brawl.
Strength plus brawl is not a good roll for me. Kit would prefer to dodge if possible, so that would be more of a...
That is fine. You will get a +2 modification to whichever one you decide to do.
Okay.
Because you are still obfuscated.
So 1-way would be a dodge, wouldn't it? Whereas 2-way would be...
Yeah, Dex plus Athletics. And the way I've always done it is that when you dodge, ties will go to you instead of the active player. And it won't be split 2 ways. So if you get ties and it's a 2-way conflict, you both take damage. If it is defensive and you tie, the defender defends, rather than you taking damage.
It's a lot better at dodging than brawling.
Okay, so it'll be Dex plus Athletics plus 2.
Okay, which is a much nicer roll. So it's the difference between a 9 dice pool and a 2 dice pool. That so. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, that's 7 successes.
You tied, you lucky shit. I got
Go Kit.
I got 3 10s, 2 on Messi's, plus
wow.
2.
Oh, jeez.
So 7 successes. As this hand snakes around in that brief glimpse of that moment, that coupled with this sensation you're feeling at the back of your head, coupled with the drive of your beast to suddenly move, means that as it rakes forward and these dirty needled-like nails suddenly edge in towards your eyes, almost as though they're about to rake, you drop and you feel the very, very small finger kind of rake over the top of your head. It doesn't actually bleed or cause any sort of harm. It's superficial the way it cuts over the top. And you duck underneath and then move forward. And as you turn and look, the hooded individual is in the doorway. And as he's looking out into the room, his one kind of hand kind of peels back and he reaches for a blade. And then he pulls the door slightly to, and you can hear footsteps. And then as the door is pulled back open, you see coming around the corner what looks to be an attractive male individual in about his 40s with a closely trimmed beard, a smart shirt and jeans. And as he stops and he looks, he takes a very slow look around the room. Make another Wits plus Obfuscate roll.
1 success.
Okay. And his eyes suddenly veer towards you. And you can hear footsteps further down the corridor, and then they stop as he holds up his hand and then steps towards the room and then gestures for the door to be shut. And the Nosferatu, because it's clear from the way that his face is kind of shifted. So it's almost like every single detail about his face is unsymmetrical. And it's difficult to look at because lack of symmetry is difficult for people to focus on. And the way he's shifted, his eyes just suddenly turn, and it's clear that the Nosferatu cannot see where you are. But the moment that this individual points, the tall individual next to him points behind this individual that you stood behind, he stops and looks in that area, and then reaches behind, clasps the door, and pulls it shut. So, the breathing individual that you're stood in front of is just standing there, and as he kind of looks at the two in front of him, he starts taking a step towards them, and they gesture for him to step closer. What are you doing? What are you doing as well, Lark? You've heard.
Yep.
You wouldn't have heard the door opening. You wouldn't have heard the scuffle. You would hear footsteps moving.
So.
So, what are your intentions, guys? And this will dictate who goes first.
Sure. She gave him the 5 seconds to get out, and it didn't happen.
Yep.
So she'll be going in,
Okay.
and will, if there's nobody present in the hall when she arrives, she will try and hide in that room. But if she is seen, she has violence on her mind.
Awesome. Great. I condone this. So, Kit, what is your intentions?
So just to be clear, the guy that can see me is stood in front of the door at the minute.
Yes.
And the Nosferatu is a bit further in. And
he's slightly off to the side. He closed the door and then took a step off to the side. So there are two people. Only one is physically in front of the door. The other one is almost slowly circling around.
Okay. And the living guy
is taking a few steps forward. So he is about to breach arm's reach if your intention is to interact with him in any shape or form.
Is he between me and them, or is he not?
Yes, at the moment.
Okay. So Kit will wait for him to step forward. Hopefully, at appropriate time, he's going to shove him towards the guy that can see me, and hopefully clear enough space to bolt for the door.
Okay, right. So we'll treat this as close combat, so you would go first. The other guys are not currently in close combat, so they will go after you. So because he's unaware that you are there, this is going to be against a flat difficulty. So make a strength plus brawl check.
Okay.
Because it's going to be a flat difficulty, you will not get the +2 modification, but it's going to be against difficulty 1.
Okay. I have 2 dice in this pool. I think it might be a good point to rouse the blood.
Do it.
Do it. So, I need one of these then, I think. I have 2 successes.
Okay, so he'll take a point of damage. Actually, you're just shoving him, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm just shoving him towards the guy.
Okay,
so
right. Okay, so instead I'll give that, I'll translate the success that you got above it into a modification for you for when you try and breach for the door. So as you're kind of watching these two individuals, one of them is circling around in his eye, the one that seems to be moving freely. The other one does move, but it's always a split second after the other one. Just like everything else about his face, everything else about his features, it's not symmetrical. Because he's looking in the same place, there's always one movement of his eye and then the other one flicks over. There's a movement and then his eye flicks over. And as his eyes begin trailing, trying to locate where you are, he glances down towards the ground to where the glass is crunching underfoot. And although he can't hear the crunching of the glass, there is the shift of it as you move. And as his eyes kind of lift and then zero towards that one point, you move forward and shove as hard as you can. And this individual, although he's broad, although he's much larger than you, he's caught entirely off guard by it, and he lurches forwards, staggering towards this closely shaven individual who immediately lifts his hands to catch him and grab him, trying to steady his weight, giving you the briefest of openings to go for that door, which will be on your next turn if that's your intention.
Yes.
Lark, you pull open the door and step in, and immediately you feel, well, if you were still living, your heart would probably, your stomach would probably lurch, because the door, there is no longer that chair in front of the door, and more to the point, the silhouette of the hooded individual is now replaced by the silhouette of what looks to be a woman at the far end of the corridor, and she is staring directly ahead of the door, and as her eyes meet you, immediately she shifts and begins putting her hand behind her. So, what's your dex plus wits?
7.
Okay, you'll go first.
Okay.
So what is your intention?
My intention is she doesn't want her heading towards the room where Kit is. So she's going to use the stake she has in her back pocket and is going to try and... Yeah, we'll try and attack her. Just keep her at bay.
Excellent.
Oh dear. Alright. You want me to roll?
Yes. Yes, go ahead and make the roll, but because you are... Okay, yeah, so go ahead and make your roll.
Oh dear. God damn it. I am going to burn a willpower, so I'm going to be down to 1. This isn't good. I have no choice. That was almost completely blanks and a 1 on a red.
Okay.
It's not much better. 2 and a 1 on a red.
Okay, 2 with a 1 on the red.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Down to 1 willpower.
you do succeed because she rolled nothing. However, what is the... I need to look up the damage modifier for a stake.
It's not. It's nothing unless you damage value is 0. But if you succeed, you inflict 5. It says 5 plus damage. Stake pierces vampire's heart and paralyzes them.
So you need to have succeeded with 5 successes in order to stake the heart, right?
Stake succeeds at a called shot to a vampire's heart,
Yeah,
and inflicts 5 plus damage. The stake, yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. So you wouldn't have actually managed to puncture the heart.
So
you've gone forward and you've dealt 2. So let me just put that in, and then that'll be half down to 1. Okay, so as you spy her and immediately her hand goes behind her back, you realize that hand, as it's been lowering down, isn't necessarily going for something. It's almost like she's perching herself, or she's reaching for something behind her rather than on a person. But you breach that distance in a second, closing across to her, driven forward by your beast. And as her eyes widen and she tracks the movement of your face with her own eyes, you bring the stake out from underneath you, and in that awkward U-shaped way, drive it forwards. And as she pulls back instinctively, it catches down just across the top of the chest, and it embeds itself a good few inches into the top. She lets that hiss, and her fangs descend as it comes away, and you find there's a very small chunk of muscle that's torn away with the crusted bits of wood. And as you drive it back, she matches eyes with you. And I need you to roll composure plus intelligence for me.
Wonderful. 5 Misty Crit. I'm a fan of these tonight.
Okay.
The 10 on a red, 10 on a black, and then another 1 black.
What did you get?
5, and if that succeeds, it's a Misty Crit again.
Okay. Okay. Right. How much did you roll?
Total 5.
Okay. You take 2 points of superficial willpower damage, which brings you into aggravated.
Yeah.
You are going to suffer a compulsion.
Mm-hmm.
As the moment she locks eye contact with you, you feel almost as though your mind suddenly unravels, and there's a mixture of very, very conflicting emotions that suddenly rise up between you. On one hand, you have absolutely rampaging anger, and on the other side there is a deep well of sorrow which suddenly conflicts and hits it, met with a lethargy that makes you suddenly just want to fuck it and just get out of it. You don't want to stay here. And then on the flip side, you feel a kind of energy, a need to be here, and a kind of joyous, and the way that these emotions kind of interact and hit all at one, it is completely disorientating, and it robs you. It feels like you've gone from being completely energized to having suddenly done a marathon in a second, and all of a sudden you feel drained and lethargic, and it's difficult to focus, it's difficult to orientate, and you've never felt such a raw, contrasting, incomprehensible rush of sudden emotions just suddenly beat the living shit out of you from inside in a split second, the moment that your eyes make contact with her. So your compulsion where are you? Because I had one saved and then it vanished.
I'm also trying to remember what aggravated willpower damage does.
Okay, it's going to be your clan compulsion.
Okay.
So page 210.
Okay. Thank you.
As all of a sudden rational thought just begins fleeing you.
Okay.
As your beast, seizing upon this moment, just begins to pulse and control and grind towards the forefront of your thoughts. And all of a sudden, any thought you might have had towards the wider issue, towards any sort of strategy or stratagem in your mind, any thoughts of wider concerns suddenly just vanish. And all you can focus on are the emotions and a kind of animalistic response to them. To happiness, to sadness, to fear, to anger, to lethargy, to joy. All of this thing just suddenly snowballing into one confusing clusterfuck that your animalistic brain is suddenly rising to the fore and is being forced to deal with. So, you are now on 1 aggravated willpower. You have none
Yes.
left. You are impaired. So on top of the penalty you're now going to get for your clan bane, you are also -2 for mental, I believe. Because you are impaired. In short, Lark is fucked in the head, in the politest possible sense.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going now to the second round. Intentions, please.
Kit is gonna go for the door, and that
Okay.
gap he's got.
All right, so you will be going after the others. Okay, so... All right, so what is Lark doing?
She has no mind left. She probably wants to inflict more damage on the girl in front of her, and then
Okay.
And then once she's satisfied with that, we'll probably try and get out.
Okay.
Running would be the smart thing to do.
Why would you want to do that?
Right? It's not as fun.
Okay. Right. Okay. So, the moment that you shove this individual forwards, Kit, you begin trying to break around him to go towards the door. The Nosferatu that has been stepping up around the side lifts out of a wicked serrated blade, which he has on him. It looks like a handmade shank, but it's been purposed to have a serrated edge. As he steps around, he just cuts towards thin air. So you will get a +2 on a roll, but I'll need you to roll. And since your intention is not to go for him, it will be a one-way conflict.
Okay. What am I rolling for this one?
So it'll be dexterity plus athletics +2 because you're still obfuscated. Actually, it'll be +1 because he's got the glass underneath to try and gauge where you are. But it's still a benefit.
Happy crit, 6 successes.
Lucky shit. Cool. So as he cuts across the air, you've already moved out that space, and he feels no resistance, and it's clear from the way that he hisses. And even his fangs are different. One of them is long, and the other one kind of bends inwards towards the other. As he hisses and turns and looks towards the room. And then he tries to track on the ground from where the creaking of the glass is, but you've already moved out of that space. However, even as you are breaching away from him and you're rushing towards the other individual, he's caught him. But as he turns and watches you move towards the door, he pulls out what looks to be a machete and swings it towards you as you try and bypass. So I need you to roll, again, dexterity plus athletics. You will get the +1 from before, from when you shoved the kine.
Yep. Four successes.
Jammy Goit. This is 3 ties you've had in combat so far, and because you've defended every time, it's gone to you. You feel the wind rush past you, although you can't hear it coming towards you. You see the serrated, rusty edge of this blade earing towards you, the side of your face, and you twist your head just enough that you feel it skim past. Just enough that if you were alive, that breach in your paper-like skin would have caused it to bleed, but it didn't. It just nicked past as you move towards that door. You grab it and you wrench it. And as you step out into the corridor, you can hear rapid footsteps from behind you. You can hear the sound of someone being shoved. And you can, although there's no voices, which is worrying because that means they're close, you step out and you can hear what sounds like a low kind of bestial snarl beginning to growl up and embed itself in the air towards your left, but the door is to your right.
Okay. So I can hear growling to the left and doors to the right. What's Kit's compulsion doing?
You'd probably need to be focusing on it. It's hard for him to orientate himself at the moment with people trying to decapitate him.
Kit will probably leave at this point then. He'll go for the door out. There's growling to the left. This is the time he needs to leave.
Okay. Alright, so you're going to be fleeing. And what are you doing? You're going for her, right?
Who are you speaking
Lark.
to? Myself?
Sorry.
No, given her state, she wants to inflict damage and then run.
Okay. So, how are you inflicting damage? Are you still going with the stake again? Your beast is urging you to take a more direct approach.
Yeah,
but
I know, actually.
You are not lost to the beast yet, so it's your choice.
Cool. That's a good thing to know.
But keep in mind your compulsion.
Yeah, she will try one more time, because if she were a little more nuts, she'd probably try and fight her. But in this case, she'll try and use the tool she has on hand. And if it doesn't work...
Okay, so
hopefully if it does work, then she'll go.
Strength plus weaponry. And this time, it is a 2-way conflict.
Okay. Strength plus... Sorry, weaponry?
Yeah. Because you're using a stake.
Yeah. Which is a +0.
Mm.
So it's just pure strength? No brawl?
No, because you're using a weapon. You're not going at it with your hands and feet.
All right. I don't know if this is asking or praying. Is there any kind of bonus I can get? Let's see. Yeah.
You can rouse the blood.
Yeah. You know what? Fuck it. Fuck it.
Let me know if you succeed or fail.
Wow. Okay. Sorry. So 3, and they're all crits, and they're all on red. I wish I was making this up. I'm taking a picture. I keep saying that.
A messy crit.
It's 3 of them.
Okay.
And 3 is my only pool, and then I'll see if I get hungry. And
okay.
So I'm hunger 4. Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. That just... Yeah.
Right.
So that's technically 4 or 5 total.
Shit. Okay. So that's 4 half to 2. Okay. So there is a moment where this noise begins to emanate in your ears, and you're not quite sure what the hell it is. The rational part of your mind is gone. The part that not entirely gone, but it's currently buried beneath layers and layers of raw emotion that you can't comprehend, and an animalistic need to just lash out, whether at her or whether or not something as focused and as simple as running or fleeing or biting or snarling. Anything animalistic that doesn't require thought, that is currently overriding every sensation you have. And as this noise builds up, there is a faint part of you that is aware that it's you making that sound. And your fangs have already descended, but they've descended to the degree where, although your mouth hasn't opened, there is a taste in your mouth, which suggests that the fangs have elongated and punctured into your lower lips. And then as your lips open and snarl, you move forward and bring the weapon down again. And as she kind of waits for you to move in, the hand comes away, and what looks to be a bar of some sort is when she swings it around. But before it can make contact with you, you've already driven that down into the top of her chest, a mere centimeter away from where it was before. And this time it embeds itself until it meets bone, and you push it further and further until the bones, the actual wood, snaps. But it's already embedded enough that as you snarling in her face, you two exchange a bestial kind of hiss and growl towards each other. Your faces are an inch away as you begin pushing further and further until she hits the back of the window. And then you push again and again, and you feel and hear the sound of glass creaking and then cracking and then shattering. And all of a sudden the ground leaves you as you and her go tumbling backwards out of the window. You hear the sound of shattering Kit. But before you can focus on it, you hear that the door, which wasn't shut as you fled out, you don't hear this footsteps coming behind you. I am now going to need you to make another Dex plus Athletics roll. It is not going to be with a bonus because the one going for you can see you.
Okay. I will rouse the blood anyway and have a... 6 successes.
Okay.
Someone's
gonna be angry. Again, you hear that sound and you turn and you bolt, and you hear the sound of as the machete comes around, again angled towards where your neck was and embeds itself in the side of the door frame. And you hear the creak and then the splintering of wood as it is yanked free. And then as you bolt out of range. And you pull the door open and glance just out the corner of your peripheral as you see that close-shaved individual step out, and he stares after you as you bolt down those stairs, and you can hear footsteps coming behind you and then receding away from you as you bolt down the bottom to the bottom of the stairs. Lark.
Mm-hmm.
Roll me stamina plus athletics.
3.
Okay, so you will take 2 half down to 1 superficial points of damage from the fall. As you come tumbling out the window, your still gripping onto this wood, driving it further down into the body as she has stopped trying to swing this thing for you. And as the trajectory of her arm comes around, it's finished almost ensnaring you in a kind of like bear-like hug as she pulls you down with her. And as you both suddenly smack onto the pavement, there is the sound of broken bone as you both hit the ground. It's not a high fall, but you both fell at a backwards angle. And the sound of broken bone sounds almost like she's fractured the shoulder bone from where she's landed. And when you landed, and when your arm was attested, it sounds like you've broken the elbow from where you've hit the ground. And you both kind of disentangle yourselves as best you can whilst you're still retaining a grip on this embedded piece of wood. And she's dropped this metal. It becomes keenly aware to you of the fact that there's shouts and screams from people around you that you are currently out in the open, having hit the ground, out in front of the kine. What are your intentions, you two? You're at the bottom of the stairs. You are currently out, prone on the ground, in front of the kine.
Yeah.
Hey, you got a messy critical. Don't blame me.
I know, I'm not. I'm just thinking about it. It's better that she's not paralyzed, because that would have been even worse.
Well, if you would have rolled really badly on the other one, it would have been more damage.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I said, it's not a far fall, but you pitched and went down.
Yeah. So this feels like a satisfying amount of hurt.
I mean, she's still moving.
I mean, she is, but that felt good. So
it doesn't matter if you take more damage because there's open sources of blood around you.
Awful.
What? I'm being pragmatic.
I know.
Plus witnesses, deal with them.
17 witnesses, go. Book it at this point. Not towards the building, but not supernaturally book it, but definitely take off as though. Yeah, she's just gonna look for shelter, somewhere out of the eye of the public.
Okay, rough direction you're heading in. North, west, east, south.
Oh, sure, south.
Your mind's not focused on anything at the moment. I think your cumulative penalty to anything mental is -5.
Yeah, so nothing. I don't even know what south is. Just
Right. Okay. So in that case,
now hungry.
Right. Okay. So in unison, actually, I need to know. Sorry, Kit. What are you doing?
Can Kit see where Lark landed? Can you see where if she's running off?
No, you've just come out the bottom of the stairs, which opens up to the rear of the building. She went out the front. Promptly.
Efficiently.
It will be looking around for Lark somewhere, but his main concern is going to be get out of the way and get hidden again. So he's
okay. So your intention is to go around to the front of the building. You can hear shouts as you're hitting the bottom of the stairs. Even beyond that door, you can hear shouts. You can hear murmurs. You can hear voices. Even with everything going on, you're quite perceptive anyway. Both you and Lark, both of you are.
So, yeah, I think he'll go around the front of the building then. I think, but he'll try and, if it makes sense, to go wide around, to keep to the shadows.
Okay.
Keep a good distance away from anything. He doesn't want to be jumped on by a Nosferatu again or anything. So.
Okay. Right. I need one more Dex plus Athletics roll from you.
Okay.
Because despite your roll, some lucky shit has celerity.
I have slows. Does that help?
You didn't activate it.
It's Cat's Grace, so it's just.
Yes, but that's not the one that gets you in close combat with someone in a split second.
It's the one that lets you fall out of buildings without hurting yourself too much.
Oh, how useful would that have been?
I know.
Actually, you rolled really well on that, so.
6 successes, happy crit.
Five successes, happy crit. You can hear.
What the hell?
what sounds to be one footstep and then silence as the individual behind you closes the distance. And as you pull the door open and you glance in your peripheral, you see that machete again angling towards you, and it strikes the back of the metal door, and you would have heard a resounding ding as metal met metal. But in your sphere of influence, it just silent as you pull the door and kind of use it to smack the blade away as you dart outside. And the moment that you open the door into the streets outside, the individual steps forward, stops, and then immediately bolts out, but he goes out the other way. And then there's more footsteps coming down as another one. The other individual, the hooded individual behind you, comes in, slams the door shut, and immediately starts locking it, and then bolts around the corner after the individual, away from you. You start going around the corner, but by the time you actually manage to cut round to the front of the building, Lark is already gone, and so is the other woman. That's where we're going to take a break. So, I'll cut back over to Mitch, and we'll pause there.
That went well.
Okay, so we're not gonna take questions this week. We're gonna have a break.
Cool.
So obviously, everyone that's watching, this is a great time to go make a cup of tea or nip something or whatever you want. We'll be back in sort of 5 to 10 minutes.
Yep, sure.
All right.
What? Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So, let's cut back to the game. Lark,
Mm.
you have no idea where the hell you're going. You're scarcely aware of what's going on. You're scarcely aware of the fact that your arm is not moving the way that it's supposed to. Although you are aware of the pain that shoots up it every single time you're running, and the sound of blaring horns and people shouting or people saying words that you can't quite comprehend as you bolt, shoving past people, shoulder checking them as you move, cars blaring their horn as you dart across traffic, scarcely aware of what's going on. Your mind at the moment is not your own. There is a rational part of you. The beast is not fully taken over. You are purely acting on instinct, but it's not the instinct of the beast. It's not the instinct that drives you to kill, to maim, to feed, to sleep. Repeat. There is more sentience there, but it's like you're looking at a world that is entirely alien and things don't add up in your head. And if it does add up, it adds up far too late for it to be relevant. Welcome to the world of a -5 penalty to your mental state, as you are bolting through the streets of Manchester at a full-on run, scarcely aware of the fact that there's shards of glass on you, that you have minor nicks and cuts and scrapes, and you have your arm, your elbow, which is fractured and twisted at an angle, but you're still running with it. You've long left the stake at this point. You're scarcely aware that you still had it before. You don't know whether or not it's still carried by the individual that you bequeathed it to, or whether or not it's just been left behind. You also have no idea where she went, because when you bolted, you heard the sounds behind you, but it didn't register with you that it was her moving, because there was loads of sounds. There was loads of shouts. There was people coming up and trying to ask whether or not you were okay, but by that point you had gone. And the streets around you just do not recognize. Kit, by the time you managed to get around the corner, there was no sign of them. There was shattered glass, there were people standing, chatting, looking up towards this window, and there are other people which are looking off in one direction. There's another one that's looking off in another direction. There are some people that are talking to each other. It's clear that they don't know one another, but people are all huddled because they're all drawn by the unusual and the disastrous. And their eyes are going towards the fish shop and then up towards the top of it. One person's on the phone speaking, and there is another person on the phone that's also speaking. Although it sounds, one of them is speaking to somebody and reporting something. Another one sounds like they're just speaking and reporting in a more familial, friendly way. And a more excitable way. So someone's obviously relaying the events to whether friends or family or anyone else. But there's a lot of hustle, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of activity around here. A few cars have stopped and pulled in, and some people are standing right by the open doors and looking towards it on their own phones. A lot of activity, a lot of focus from something like this. There is no blood, but there is what looks to be shattered wood on the ground with bits of tissue amongst the glass. What are you doing?
Do I have any idea where Lark's gone?
Nope. You know people are glancing off in two different directions. One goes round the corner, back around the side of the building, and one goes directly ahead of the building. So towards the west.
Okay.
Well, west-southwest.
So they seem to have left, but left this guy alone in the flat as far as Kit's aware. Is Kit still under compulsion?
You still feel it, but given everything else that's going on, again, you can't ever ignore it fully. It's always still there at the forefront of your mind, but it's not overwhelming like it was before when you saw him. You know that the two individuals have moved. You know that she is cutting around in the direction that they went. You don't know they've left the area.
Okay. So they might be still around. In that case, now that he's out of danger, Kit will find somewhere he can watch the flat from.
Okay. Front or back?
The doorway, ideally. I'd even get as much view on as much of it as possible.
You also, as you're focusing and trying to discern this, you can hear the sounds of sirens off. But when the sirens are activated, they sound very close. Like they suddenly just switched on around the corner.
Okay.
And they come from the direction of the park.
Okay. Yeah. So if Kit can find somewhere like across the road, out of the way.
Front or back of the building, sorry.
The side of the door. It's the back, isn't it?
Yes, around the back of the building.
Just the flat. Yeah, he'll find somewhere like across the street or something where you can keep a good eye on the doorway from. But be
okay.
well steady, police, whatever they decide to do.
Okay. As you cut back around, roll a Wits plus awareness for me. Have you still got Obfuscate maintained?
Yeah, I haven't dropped it yet, I don't think.
Both of them?
I mean, I haven't said I've dropped it, so...
Okay.
Presume it depends how crowded it is. If he's gone near the crowds, then he would have dropped Silence of Death, because that's just...
There are crowds of people forming. For you to have gotten close enough to actually have seen the debris.
Yeah. So he would have dropped Silence of Death, then, I think.
Do me an intelligence plus medicine check as well.
Okay, and we're still at -1 for Bane, aren't we?
Yes.
1 success.
Okay. You can't recall why, but there's a frantic part of your brain that is saying that that seems to be recalling the fact that there is a stake left there with flesh on it.
Okay.
The relevance of that in this particular moment with so much stimuli going on, with the pain in the back of your head, with the fact there's an individual up there, with the fact that you don't know where Lark is, you don't know where these individuals are. All of this coming together means that you're not really focusing on the reason why this is drawing towards you, but it's something you noticed and you're still thinking on.
Okay. So, something we need to deal with. Kit hasn't really got anything.
Okay.
Special. So he's going to make his way over there if he can, pick his way through the crowd, just unseen passage, and see if he can just pick up all the bits of flesh before the...
There are a lot of people looking in its direction.
Mm.
Obviously looking in the direction of the fall, looking towards the window. It will be difficult for you to pick it up, but not impossible.
Let's go for it. Why not?
Awesome. Okay. Cool. Right, so you've dropped Silence of Death.
Yeah. Drop Silence of Death, keeping unseen passage.
Do me Dex plus Stealth first, because this is quite a confined crowd, so you need to make your way through them, through shattered glass. as well.
Okay. Two successes.
Okay. Right, now do Dex plus Stealth to pick this up.
Stealth or larceny?
I'll let you use Larceny.
I'm going to willpower that. It's not particularly great. 3 successes.
Okay. So what's your willpower on now?
2.
Okay. Right. 3 successes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As best you're aware, you manage to creep past the people, slowly pick your way as speedily as you can through the glass so that you don't disturb any, and get this item. As soon as you do a very quick look around, painfully aware that you can't watch everybody at once, and wait until most people's attention has gone up to the window, and then you grab it and pull it. And as you pull it close to you, you realize that the flesh that's on the end is very clearly dead flesh. Dead muscle, dead skin. On what you know that most hunters would recognize quite clearly is a very hastily made steak. And you take it and clutch it to you, and then slowly try and weave your way back through the crowd, back towards the front. And after you have this in hand, you start cutting your way around to the front of the building, and you realize that the front door is now slightly ajar. The back door, sorry, is slightly ajar.
Okay. So it was shut before, and now, by the time I got back around it, it's ajar. I think Kit's going to wait again. He's going to find somewhere out of the way and wait and see what the beast is. He can make sure he's got an escape route out, so not necessarily if he has to run, but he can.
I need another Dex plus Stealth from you. Actually, no, it'll be Wits plus Obfuscate.
2 successes.
Okay. You manage to cross down over to the side of the road and just watch as best you can, making sure that you're out of the way where people don't need to constantly veer to try and get past you. They'll do so anyway due to Obfuscate and due to the unconscious need they have to try and avoid you. But you keep an eye on the door, and after 10 seconds, especially with you're painfully aware of the passage of time because the volume of those sirens has suddenly gotten very loud. And you see 2 cars cut away from the rough direction of where the park was, and 2 police cars veer around the corner towards the front. With unerring speed, it's worth noting, they came from very close by. And as you're watching the rear door, it opens again, and you see the hooded individual immediately step out and start marching away, and the individual behind him is the kind individual that you noticed before, and he starts stepping away. He looks back towards the sirens, and then the hooded individual snaps something, says something sharply over the corner of his over his shoulder, and the individual hastens to keep up, and then they both turn the corner.
Okay, Kit will try and follow them, trail them.
Okay. Right. I will need from you Resolve plus Stealth.
Okay. It's not so good. A dice pool.
Lark.
I'm gonna burn a will, and the rouse above. That's the words.
Okay, sure. What's your hunger on at the moment, Kit? Still 1.
1 still, yeah. That is a terrible roll. I'm going to also burn a willpower.
Okay, so now you're on to 1 willpower.
1 willpower.
You're getting very emotionally tired.
Yep.
I would say like Lark, but she's way beyond that point at this point.
Willpower.
3 successes. Oh, and still not hungry though.
Okay. You guys still don't have phones, do you, for each other? Thought not. Okay. So, Lark. Roll resolve plus composure minus 2.
Very red, cool. Two successes.
Okay. By the time you manage to stop the flight instinct that has taken over you, you are still very, very unaware of whereabouts you are. Your mind is still reeling from what's happened to it. So the constant, still very much present rush of emotions that you cannot fathom. You can't come to grips with them because as soon as you start understanding what emotion you're currently feeling, it flits to another one. It's a sensation of being hit with almost extreme, with an extreme, very fleeting, very incessant and constant bipolar where you are slingshotting between emotions and unable to focus on one, and it's constantly influencing you and constantly making it impossible for you to focus on any one thing because you're feeling this variance of emotions, but you're feeling it one after the other on its most extreme level. And it takes you a while to try and focus and kind of bring yourself back to yourself. And you're still feeling all these emotions. You're still very, very emotionally tired and drained, but you are able to stop yourself from just running blindly. And you've managed to tuck yourself into an alleyway. You do not recognize where you are. You have no idea where you are.
No.
And there are quite a few people which are giving you looks as you're passing by, as you're just staring ahead. And your body is kind of making motions as though it's breathing, but you're not breathing. Your body's still lurching almost as though you're like pitching to try and draw breath, but your lungs just aren't working. They're not agreeing to work. They don't understand the kind of instinctual impulse rather than the rational impulse that your mind is sending to your body to work. But you have no idea where you are. What are you doing?
Before I can properly get my bearings, I am dangerously close to being too hungry. And her mental pool is just about gone. She's going to try and eat. She's going to try and find something to level herself out. Get a fix, if you will. She isn't about to snatch someone off the street. She is going to, depending on the surroundings, see if she can find anybody who is her usual style and taste. So something perhaps homeless or drunk.
It would require you to, if you're being more selective about it, might require a bit more no, actually, I mean, you'll still take a -2 penalty because you're trying to ration it out. So I'll apply the -2 penalty from your impairment towards a roll, depending on the method of feeding once you find someone.
Okay.
Because finding an opportunity to feed is one thing. Finding an opportunity to feed on a select prey is different.
True. At this point, I think I'm just leaning towards more what is habit for her.
Okay.
She's not an alley cat feeder. So if something presents itself, perhaps even if it's not too.
All right. In that case,
style,
just do a normal roll then, and I'll just influence the difficulty based on that.
Thank you. So, sorry, what am I rolling?
So it'll be. What method are you using to?
She's generally a sandman at this point. She's just an opportunist. So.
Okay.
Usually she'll feed off sort of the discarded.
Right, we'll say strength plus stealth.
Okay. And I'm and -2. You said?
No.
Okay.
I've changed the difficulty to reflect that you're going after someone else.
Okay. Wow. 1 success and 2 ones on reds.
Do you want to succeed at a cost?
Do I get to know the cost?
You are going to be caught feeding in a domain that's not yours. You do not know by who, because you do not know where you are.
Yeah. I am kind of looking to character play this, and just given how impaired she is, I'm thinking that's not going to matter much to her right now.
Okay. All right. So, how much are you trying to take?
2.
Okay. All right, 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Just working out exactly where you've ended up.
Just a little poaching.
Mm-hmm. Just a little poaching. No one really minds. Okay. Okay. So, staggering nonsensically through these alleyways, you are looking towards shapes, and what initially looks to be a shape turns out to be discarded like blankets and similar from people, but you're drawn to it towards the smell, leading by the nose rather than by the eyes as you're starting to move between different things. It's different than being led by the beast, who is more incessant, less cautious. You are moving with a caution, and you are watching and keeping aware, and you can hear the din, and your nose leads you towards the smell of blood, but then draws you back when you realize that that is not safe for you to go. And you start moving from alleyway to alleyway, just marching. Anyone that gives you a look, anyone that says, hey, as you kind of knock into them, you just kind of ignore, well aware that if you look at them, you'll lunge. And you just march over towards another alleyway until finally one of the blankets that you're kind of drawn towards moves and shifts as someone kind of lifts it and then looks up towards you, kind of confused and disorientated, having been roused from sleep by your approach. But then just as they start to try and turn and roll over to go back to sleep, you just move in and start biting down. So you recover to 1. Fortunately, you're not hungrier because you have no willpower. So you would have just gobbled him up. So you recover to 1. And then as you pull away, and the beast feels that satiation, you can feel the blood just draining down out of the corner of your mouth from where you drew from him. And it gives you a moment of clarity as every other impulse, every other feeling, every other emotion is suddenly overwhelmed and suffocated, momentarily snuffed out by the elation that you get from feeding. And the kind of rapturous roar that the beast gives inside as you finally satiate and give it what it wants. And then as you draw away and then quickly lick the blood clean, more going for the blood than focusing on the fact that you need to lick the pinpricks at this point. Just so happens you manage to handle both in the same instant. And as this figure kind of shudders and kind of rolls in on himself, drawing this dirty blanket up further over himself, you stand up and then start staggering over towards the edge of the alleyway. And then, just as you are starting to march out of it, another cut to is suddenly where you feel a presence off towards your left. And as you stop and you turn, you realize that the individual that's watching you, that is wearing a white vest, which is several sizes too large for them, is someone that looks to be in their very early teens that is staring out at you. Half the hair is shaven across one side and then cuts down, curling across one side of the face. Very kind of androgynous features in that you can't quite discern, especially in this light, whether it's male or female. But the way that they're looking at you makes it clear that the level of attention you're getting is not someone that's just wandering in an alley and seen you. And immediately you feel your hackles begin to rise, especially as the individual that's standing in front of you pulls out something small and sharp. And it looks to be... It's difficult for you to say in the light, especially since it's now tucked behind the side. And then as they take a step towards you, they do this. What, you say no?
She's just not going to listen.
All right, okay. So, what response does she actually give?
None. She's fairly nonverbal, so she's going to turn to leave.
Right, okay. So... Right, okay. So, in the moment that you turn to leave, there is the sound of skittering can as it flies past you from the force of something striking it. And then you see the flash of a blade come around the side and just cut towards your neck from behind. I need you... Is this one way or two way? You've got your back to them, so there will be a penalty.
Sorry, you're asking if I'm engaging?
One
Yeah,
way
well,
or two way? All right,
yeah,
okay.
depend
So it'll be
myself.
-1 to you because you got your back to them.
Okay. It was hard to hear earlier. You said I slaked 1 thirst off the guy?
No, you've gone to 1 hunger.
2. Oh, wow. Okay, damn.
Yeah, you weren't on hunger 4, so you didn't need to roll 4. Well, you wouldn't have been on a roll. You have no willpower, so you would have just drained him.
I was on hunger 4.
You were on hunger 4?
Yeah. We can go back to that if you want.
Okay.
Sorry if I was unclear.
You could have stopped yourself,
Mm.
but it would have meant taking more willpower damage, so you would be on 2 aggravated. If you don't do that, then you've killed someone.
I'd rather not have. Oh.
So is it going to be aggravated willpower, or is it going to be 2 stains?
Aggravated. Fuck it.
Okay. So you're on 2 aggravated willpower.
Yep.
Alright, but you're still on hunger 1.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries.
All
Alright, so... What did you roll?
I didn't hear the pool. Or I didn't get a pool.
Oh, so if you're engaging, it was going to be strength plus brawl.
Okay.
But it's with a -1 because you got your back to them.
Okay. So -1. Okay. 1.
Okay. So
Good night.
5 points of superficial damage. Halved, and is it rounded up or down? It's up, isn't it?
Up, I think.
So,
Yeah. So 3 points of superficial damage. As the blade cuts across deep and low enough where it doesn't cut across the windpipe, but low enough where it cuts into the collarbone and scrapes across the top of the bone as it's pulled back. And then as you feel that and begin hissing, the other hand grabs you and shoves you against the side of the stonework, and you can feel there's kind of like the breaking of brick from the force of you being shoved backwards. And then as they release you, they flip the blade over in their hand and then hold it out towards you. Are you going to continue or are you going to stay?
Is my compulsion still active, by the way? Can I speak? Doesn't really have a duration.
I will have a goosey for you, because I'm helpful like that.
Yeah, it's this one scene.
So it probably would have drifted off by now. You're still on the -2 for... need to have a look, actually, whether or not that's just mental. But is your intention to continue this fight, or...?
Nope, I will wait and see what this individual has to say. You haven't killed me.
What are you on at the moment?
Come again?
What are you on at the moment?
Hunger, you mean?
No, health. Are you impaired?
Health. No, not yet.
It's -2 penalty to social and mental tests for impaired. Okay, so as you feel the stoneworks kind of crash behind you and your head knocks back against it, it momentarily worsens the fleet of emotions that you get, and then all of a sudden it slowly recedes, and those emotions just ebb, drawn away in the aftermath of the euphoric feeding that you've just had. And every single time you feed, it feels like the first time, and every single time it ebbs away, it feels just as numbing as it did before. And then all of a sudden you feel drained, you feel exhausted, absolutely physical fuckingly exhausted. But you no longer have those emotions overriding your rational mind, and your rational mind is slowly coming back and bringing the whole situation, where you are, what you've done, the fact that you don't know where you are, the fact you have no idea where Kit is, you don't know what went on, you don't know where the other woman is or what happened to her. You can scarcely remember people screaming at you, trying to figure out, if you're all right, and then people getting annoyed with you when you barge past them. The memories all come racing back, but they're in a blur, in a mash, in a nonsensical order to you. And then you have this individual that's in front of you, this young, very young teenage individual that has what looks to be, it's almost like a segment that's been cut out of a larger blade, that's being held about neck level from where this deep cut is gone in. And as you move, you can almost feel from where the separation of the muscle and the feel of the two sides of your skin rubbing against exposed and chipped bone from where the blade cut deep. And they're holding it level. And they're very, very still and very, very motionless in terms of not breathing, not blinking. And they're close to you. And they're unafraid to be close to you. And they're just holding it level. What's your name, Lick?
I can leave.
Name.
Lark.
You a Cammy, Lark, or are you an Anarch?
What are you?
The blade presses against the flesh from where she cut before, or where they cut before. Cammy, or Anarch, Lark?
She'll shake her head.
Right, okay. You're resisting answering.
I'm looking for an opportunity to get away from this. Yes, resisting.
Okay, so social combat. Yours is going to be resolve or composure.
Yep.
Plus subterfuge, because you are trying to mask.
Yeah, and then -2 for...
-2 for impairment. If you fail this, you're going to take more willpower damage. If you get down to complete aggravated, you're fucked. And you need to actually answer. Okay, because you have no will left to resist it.
Nope. I have 2 dice, and that is a messy crit, so 4.
What, 4 successes?
Yeah, it's only 2 die, so now it's to 4 because it is a messy crit.
Messy crit. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's tied. So you both take a point of willpower damage.
Okay.
There is a standoff. You don't say anything, but they're not backing down. And the tension of that and the fact that there is sirens off in the distance, making it clear to you that you've not run too far.
Mm-hmm.
Their attention is drawn briefly to it, but the blade is still perched on the edge of your flesh, making it clear that if you did move, then it's going to drive home.
Right.
And they're clearly confident in what they're doing because they're unafraid to take their eyes off you as they just focus on the sound of the distance and then look back at you. And then they look around and stare at the individual that you were hunched over. And then turn the blade over. I'm going to ask one last time. Cammy or Anarch? And there's a slow pressure on the blade. You're not going to answer? Okay.
She's looking for an opportunity to both.
Okay. So it's going to be one more roll. And then if you want to try and break, you can. Or rather, if you don't want to continue this, if you want to try and break, you can.
Okay. Do I risk more aggravated willpower damage if I continue what I'm doing?
If you fail, yeah. Because you're going to take more superficial willpower damage and you've got no boxes left. If you try and bolt, though, they're in such a position where they will get a bonus. Because the blade's there. And you are pinned against a wall.
When their eyes are briefly off me to look at the siren, can I use it as an opportunity to go?
Sure, I'll let that negate the penalty, but they'll still get to attack.
Damn.
You are in close quarters with someone that has a blade
Yeah.
against your throat.
I'm also aware I'm in Anarch territory, because I can still hear the sirens.
In the distance, but
In
you're
the
not sure which way
distance.
you fled.
Yeah,
You could have fled north.
it's also true.
If you fled north and you say you're an Anarch, you're in the shit. If you fled west or south
Yeah, I know.
and you
This is
say you're a
why-
Cammy, then you're also in shit.
Yeah, okay. You know what? I'm so fucking wrong-footed. And I'm so, all of my stats are garbage. If she feels the pressure of the knife again and no opportunity presents itself to flee, she will respond.
So it's your choice. You have the opportunity now to either try and flee, which will return it to combat, or you can respond, or you can try resist socially to respond.
Can't resist
Those are your
socially.
3 options.
And incredibly hurt. Yeah, she'll respond at this point.
All right.
And wait
So
and
with the
see what
blade
happens.
against your throat, or the collarbone rather, or just nestled above the collarbone. So ideally positioned to drive up into the throat. If you were to scream or move or anything else that might warrant it. What do you say?
Hi, Maria.
You are old.
I don't understand that question.
Are you new or old?
New.
Acknowledged?
Yes.
Then you should fucking know better. Shouldn't you, Lark?
They're not.
lifts the blade away. Okay. I need you to make a roll for me.
Mm-hmm.
Two-way or one-way? What is your intention?
If he looks like he's going to attack me, then I'm taking off.
Okay, so you're going to try and flee. So it'll be Dex plus Athletics.
Okay.
Okay.
Two.
Okay. 2.
Mm-hmm. Bad roll.
Okay.
And I have no willpower.
Right. So, accounting for your successes, that's 6 halved down to 3. Are you impaired?
If that is health, I am out.
You're out.
Hmm.
As in full aggravated.
Oh, right, aggravated trap. No, that means I'm under 1 aggravated.
Okay. Right. Okay. So, as they turn the blade away and flick it, you immediately try and bolt, and they drive it again into the chest and wedge you again against the wall. And then as you feel it cutting close, uncomfortably close to your heart, although it's not wood, although it's unlikely to torpor you. I mean, you've never had a blade this close to your heart, wood or otherwise, so you have no idea. But your beast is suddenly very keenly aware of how close it is. And as they reach up with the other hand and grab you, they turn and twist you towards the other end of the alleyway. And you can see over on the other end of the alleyway, there looks to be a car that's pulled up that this individual is marching you towards. Get in the fucking car. Resist and I'll drag you there in torpor.
Never get in the car, isn't that what they say?
Could be worse. It could be an ice cream truck.
Candyman.
Say his name 5 times.
No. Is there anybody in the car?
Yes. Can't make them out though.
No. I think she's gonna keep fighting.
Okay.
And she will, at this point, use feral weapons to try and get away. Unless there's public nearby, I don't think there is.
No, you're currently in an alleyway, T section, so you're heading towards the mouth of the alleyway where the car is pulled up, but you're currently positioned where... And there's no foot traffic based on where the car's pulled up that you can see. So it's likely an alleyway that pulls onto somewhere that's quiet or closed.
Yeah, she's not going to... She won't be cowed. She's going to try and break this grip.
Okay, so we'll pop back to you in a moment. Kit, you've watched these individuals move off. I need you to do that. Did you roll resolve plus stealth for me?
Yes.
Okay. What was it?
Question wasn't right. I think it was 2 successes.
Okay. Right. Okay. It's difficult for you to try and weave your way through traffic and keep up with them because there's quite a bit of traffic going around, even with the police cars around. In fact, there's a congestion of traffic from where people are having to divert on the route where you're trying to follow because you can see this hooded individual making off with this other individual. And before too long, they meet up with 2 other individuals. One, which looks to be the woman that you notice going into the actual building. She still has a carrier bag with her. And And she has a thick coat, which she has pulled up, clutching almost around the neck, almost as though she's trying to hug it and hide like pretty much most of her torso. And she's moving off with this carrier bag, and directly behind her is the close-shaved individual who's got his hands in his pockets, and he's just walking extremely casually, straightforward, paying no attention, whilst the other two seem to be more aware and looking around in the surroundings. He just is moving with calm and purpose forwards, and the other two are marching behind him. And now that they are regrouped, the Kine is marching between the hooded individual and this taller one, and they're marching over towards one of the bus stops, and then stop and wait there. And then as a bus slowly starts pulling around the corner, you can tell this is the one they're about to get on, because the close-shaved individual stands up and flags it, and then just waits for it to pull in, and then gestures for them to get on.
Kit will take a note of the number of the bus, where it's likely to go to.
Okay.
In fact, where are we? What's around?
You've gone slightly west-southwest, not too far. It's coming in towards Anarch territory proper.
Yeah, no, Kit will take a look at the bus and check the route once it's clear. He would get on up with them, but he's aware that one of them at least has a chance of seeing him.
Okay, so you're lingering back.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll check the route. We'll try and follow the bus if possible, but I suspect it's not going to be...
No, it'd be very difficult, especially if you're trying to maintain obfuscate while you're doing so.
Yeah.
You can try. Buses do stop every now and again. It will be difficult for you to do, and you will have to drop obfuscate to do it. Depending on how busy the route is, will dictate whether or not you can actually do it, or what the difficulty is going to be.
So the only other option is if there's a taxi or something around, you can drop obfuscate things.
If there are any
taxis.
Yeah, I mean, you could flag down a taxi. You did rouse the blood before, didn't you?
Not yet, but...
For Blush of Life?
Not yet, because he's been obfuscated, but he would Blush of Life before.
Okay, so roll Blush of Life then, if you're going to flag down a taxi.
Blush of Life. Passed.
Excellent. Okay, so it takes you a few moments to kind of flag down one. There's not that many going around, but eventually, after progressing a bit further beyond where the buses are pulled in, you do find a stretch where all the taxis tend to pull in. And it doesn't take you too long to flag one down. There's a few people getting in and out of the taxi, heading home now as the hours start to progress towards. Most people have work the next day. They don't want to be out too late. Or they'd like to be out too late, but they're not going to be out too late. As you climb in towards the taxi. And then he glances back at you and says, "Yep, where to?"
So Kit got any idea? The bus is gone, isn't it? So
yes,
Kit will just say somewhere that's on the routes, hopefully, roughly where he thinks the bus might be.
Okay, roll intelligence plus streetwise.
Am I still under Clambane?
No.
That's 5 successes.
Okay. Based upon where the route's going, you know it's down towards the southwest. Most of the actual traffic going there, and now off the top of your head and what you know from your sire, because you know the reason why she's given a measure of respect is that she holds territory close to this area. The actual region is... Sorry, it's taking a moment to load. Okay, so where it actually comes in is not too far away from the only thing that you can think of where they're going, and based upon what you've actually heard them say, is that it's bringing you close towards the Globe Trading Estate, which you know to be the domain of Carmine Hurst.
Okay. Well, let's go there then, so I can pick them up. They mentioned Carmenhurst before, so looks like they're heading there.
All right, so you start making your way down there in the taxi, and the guy doesn't trade any conversation with you. Some taxi drivers will try and strike up a conversation. This one is perfectly happy to just say nothing and just focus on driving. Every now and again, he'll just curse to himself as traffic cuts him up, or he's forced to delay, and you can see the meter slowly building, and more money basically going into these long delays. But you're happy without the conversation. Just focusing on where you're going, keeping an eye out, because you're well aware that even though you are in a car, you're still not safe from being noticed going through any rival territories. So you keep an eye out as you're going along. And you start making your way towards your destination. You're going to try and bolt.
I may have had a second thought. I may have had a second thought.
Okay.
What was his...
There.
Sorry?
There.
No, his when she gave her response, his reaction.
Their reaction.
Their reaction, I'm sorry. What was their reaction?
Roll, though you will take your -2 on this.
Yep.
It'll be intelligence plus insight.
Okay. Okay. 1 success.
It's difficult for you to tell. I mean, they looked generally pissed anyway, but it's more because it's hard for you to tell whether or not that was as a result of you saying an affiliation they disliked, as it was the fact that you got caught poaching. Which, let's face it, is going to be as fucking annoying for an Anarch as it is for a Cami.
Yeah, fuck it.
Although the Anarchs tend to have a tendency to kick the living shit out of you for doing it, whereas the Camarilla tend to take you to a higher up. Yeah. If they want a wider justice, because obviously they can't kill you without penalty.
Yeah, and this individual hasn't... They've got me twice when I've tried to run off and it didn't go well. Yeah, okay. She is going to... Yeah. God damn it, this is really hard. Yeah, I think she's going to try and bolt again.
Okay.
As much as I want to say the wise thing would be to get in the car, she's not one to go quietly.
Okay. So, make a roll. Dexterity plus athletics.
Okay. My hands are so sweaty. 2.
You time it just so that as a shove is made contact with your shoulder, you use the momentum of the push to spin and twist around to the side of them. And it is in that very split second, as they push you and then try and rake the blade forward to catch you again, it catches cloth and you pull sharp enough that it rips through the back of the clothing. As you spin and start darting, they immediately turn and start trying to take off after you. I need you to roll for me strength plus athletics.
None.
One more roll.
Over.
As you stagger past them, the momentum of trying to catch you as they turn and start moving forwards means that they misstep as they move and they lurch into the side of the wall, being disjointed from the fact that you flailed behind you, connecting with the side of their head. You can hear the sound of the car pulling away ahead of behind you, back at the end of the alleyway, and a door swinging shut. Not because anyone shut it, but you're guessing from the momentum of the car pulling forwards. As you shuttle forwards, you slip and go forward onto your hand as you push off again. You're both making a beeline towards the end of the alleyway. One more roll.
3.
2. As you manage to, even as you've gone down further than them, the fact that they've collided with the side of the wall steals them of the momentum of their initial run, and you manage to get halfway down the alleyway before they manage to start gaining ground again. And as you come out towards the end of the alleyway, it's going to be a straight beeline to make for crowds. The moment that you can make the safety of the crowds, them following you is going to be a hell of a lot more difficult if Masquerade is anything they give a shit about. So I'm going to need one more roll from you. You will get a +1 because you've got further ground on them.
Okay.
If they beat you, they will catch you at the mouth of the alleyway.
2.
Okay. Right. You manage to breach towards the end of the alleyway, and you can hear rapid footsteps coming up behind you. But the moment that you can see the glint of that blade out of the corner of a dirty window off towards your right, you step out of that alleyway just as you see the flash of the blade, and a number of people come past, and immediately the footsteps behind you stop and stonewall. As you breach beyond them, you don't bother looking back. You cross over the road. There's another screech of a horn as you just cut across. You move over in towards a bracket of people, breach through them with a number of people yelling curses and obscenities as you shoulder check them, and you just barrel past. Very keenly aware that if you were to try and linger and take it slow, the gaping cut that you've got across that goes down to the bone is going to be a little bit of it, especially since it's not bleeding, a little bit of a giveaway. So you just bolt, trusting in your own speed to enable you to keep that wound and your pursuer as non-threats as you make off. What direction roughly are you going? You have no idea which way you're facing.
Fine. North, and see if she starts recognizing anything.
Okay. Right. While you're running, do intelligence plus streetwise. -2. Because of your...
Okay, so just 2. 1.
Okay, it's enough for you to get a very basic heading. You think you're going roughly in the direction of north, but you're not going to delay long enough to actually try and gauge signs. And you're cutting across, zigzagging, very keenly aware that you might have just gained distance on them, but that car pulled away. And you didn't get a good enough look at that car to know anything about its color or the design of the car or the make of the car. You know the fact that it's a car, not a van. You know the fact it's got 4 doors, not 2 doors. But that's about the extent of it. The fact it also has wheels, you know that as well. But other than that, you know fuck all about this car. So it's very disconcerting every time you see a car pull past. And you continue bolting off as quickly as you can. Also very keenly aware that you're in a catch-22 situation. You are moving as quickly as you can because you need to gain ground. You're also drawing focus which is a bad thing because you are currently sporting a very nasty looking cut across the top of your throat. Because you have aggravated damage. So this is not a normal wound. This is a clearly Masquerade risking wound. Kit. Sorry. Kit, you've been trying to keep track as best you can using the taxi, trying to keep track of where you're going in the rough direction. And before too long, the taxi driver pulls up around the side, and he turns and looks at you. And then he barks out, as roughly as he has this entire journey, the sum total, which is far more expensive than you were expecting it to be. But hey, monetary concerns are not a massive thing for you at the moment. But he holds out his hand expectantly.
Okay. Are we... So I'm in the trading estate?
Close to, yes. Just on the outside of the trading estate.
But no sign of bus or anyone?
No, but you're not sure where the buses pull in. You've never been to the trading estate. For a Camarilla to come here is a very bad... It's like it's like an Anarch marching up to the front door of the prince's domain.
Yeah.
It's ballsy, but it's not likely to last long.
So Kit will. It's getting a bit lost now, I guess. Because he doesn't know where in this trading estate it's going to be.
He's still holding his hand out expectantly.
Yeah. So Kit will just sit there. So,
hey, buddy, you getting out of the car?
Kit will say, "No, tell you what, can you take me back to?" And he'll name somewhere. It's not in their domain, but in the Camarilla side, close to their domain.
Right. Well, that'll be a second journey, so pay for this one first.
Seems logical. So Kit will dig a wallet out and.
Okay. Right. He takes the money, double checks it, pockets it, resets the dial. Where do you want him to drop you? The closest thing that comes to your mind is your sire's domain, which is to the north.
Makes sense then. Yeah, let's go there.
All right.
So it might make sense to go and talk to. Yeah.
Okay. So you set that as the destination. He pulls away with a sigh. He's one of those really annoying people that clearly doesn't like his job and has no interest in making it look like he does. And he sighs as he's forced to pull away and drives off north.
Okay.
But
he has no clue that he doesn't like it.
Yeah. As he pulls away and starts heading off north, you have no idea whether or not anyone's noticed you. You have no idea whether or not the buses are pulling into this area. But you start making north. Lark, what is your plan? You have very little idea of where you are.
Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of... If there's any sort of parks or anything that present themselves, she will go through there rather than stick to main streets. She's going to keep heading north until she starts to see something she recognizes, but is very, very much going to make a solid effort to stay out of any light, stay off roads.
Okay.
Her goal is to get back to her own haven.
Your personal haven?
My personal one.
Okay. All right, if you're trying to remain subtle as you're doing this, making your way back, do a wits plus stealth roll. The only kind of landmark that you can see that gives you a rough idea of where you are is that you can see a building that's marked as Devonshire House. Now, based upon your recollection, you are not far from your domain. The community domain. Your domain is much further away.
Okay, I'm not heading back to hers. I've removed 2, by the way.
So you are heading to the communal, or you're heading to
Mine.
yours? Okay, so it's going to be further away.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Right, so with 4.
Here's my
All right, so you managed to break away from the place where you're currently hiding, doing your absolute best to try and keep as quiet as you can in terms of moving. Quiet in the sense that you don't want to draw attention. Quiet in also the sense that you're trying your best to use what clothing you have to mask this injury, because it's to the degree where, unless you're willing to start trying to heal some of it on the move, is going to draw attention the moment people see it. But you start making your way, driven still largely on instinct, because at this point you are exhausted. You're not really focusing on what you're doing. But despite that, you are moving more out of habit from the treads, the pathways that you've taken before, weaving your way in and out of buildings, keeping to the quieter, the less traveled areas of the city that you're aware of, making your way slowly back towards your domain. Every time there's a car, you do your absolute level best not to just stare at the people going past, trying to identify whether that shape looks roughly like the shape you saw before. You have no idea whether or not they've come after you. And given where you are currently traveling, in the quieter areas, it does register in your mind that if they were going to grab you, they probably would have by now. You've moved through quite a few areas where there's not a lot of kind. But every time that you do go through one of these areas and you can hear the sound of a car, it is cause for concern, and you slow your pace. And your attention does shift then in those moments towards the car. But it pulls away, or there's people in it. There's too many people in these cars. Far too many people in these cars that you're comfortable with. But you are comforted by the fact that there was only 2 people that you saw. The one that had you with the knife and the one that was in the vehicle. And slowly but surely, you start making your way back towards the domain. Briefly considering or wondering, where the fuck is Daniel? Where the fuck is Kit? Where the fuck are the people that you were going after? And in far too long a time, you begin stepping out onto the street where you believe and then recognize for definite your haven is connected to. Then you get a fleeting worry in your head. What if they do know where you are? And what if there's a reason they haven't grabbed you yet?
That's why I didn't go back to the communal.
You are heading back to the communal.
No, I said that's why I didn't go back there.
All right, cool. Okay. So, are you making your way directly to yours?
Yeah. Going to do my best to make sure I'm not tailed, and then she will enter her own haven and yeah, she needs to think and heal and sort herself out before she can be presentable again.
Okay. So you manage to make your way back towards the building, and there again is a very long, brief pause as you do think the moment you touch this door, and the moment that whoever's watching you, it's that lingering paranoia from before that you've experienced, and it suddenly resurfaces in his head when there's no mental resistance left to you to push it down. What if they are following you? The moment you confirm this is where you live, that's when they're going to hit you. They might wait until you get inside, but they're going to fucking hit you. And you've got no one else to call on. Where the fuck's your coterie? Why didn't Kit come and get you? Where the fuck's he gone? And all these thoughts slowly surface. Whether you want them to or not, whether or not it's something that you want to focus on, you are too fucking exhausted to not let them play a part in your mind. But eventually you force yourself to open that door and step in. And then you shut it. And then, for lack of any other immediate concerns beyond these niggling paranoid thoughts, you linger close to the door, or within eyeshot of that door, waiting for it to open. And then it doesn't. So what are you doing?
She is going to make her way through her own haven. She's going to try and heal a bit of what she has. And she also has a feeding benefit here that she will take advantage of.
Okay. All right, so how much are you going to try and heal?
I'm on aggravated, so how does that work? Do I heal?
Aggravated, you cannot heal. Yeah, the next night when you choose to wake up, I believe you'd need to make 4 rouse checks. You need 1 to wake up, which is mandatory, and then if you are healing, you need to make 3.
And I can't deal with my superficial until my aggravated is dealt with?
No, you can heal whichever ones you want in whatever order you want.
Okay, so I am going to try and heal.
Well, you will heal, full stop. It's whether or not you become hungrier in the effort.
Yeah, exactly. So
you will always heal automatically if you decide to.
Yeah, and I don't want to go crazy and kill myself if I do this wrong. So she'll try and heal 2 superficial.
Okay, so it'll be 2 rouse checks.
Yep. 1 success and 1 fail.
Okay, so you're on hunger 2.
Yep.
But you've lost 2 superficial. So you can feel as you kind of move into your kitchen and slump yourself down, you kind of glance in the reflection of a kitchen knife that you grab off the side and glance in the reflection, because it's the only thing you have to hand to look at it. And you just look at the injury and you can see the white of the bone. White even by comparison to the paleness of your skin. And that's white because there's no blood rushing over it. There's nothing to distort that color, and you can see it. And as you're focusing on it, you get that very strange, horrific sensation like spider legs going over and re-knotting as your flesh slowly starts to knit and move. And watching it is horrific.
Mm-hmm.
You've been dead for a while now, and this isn't the first injury you've had to heal, but it is never, ever okay seeing it. So you have to turn the blade away as you feel and just focus on the sensation that feels like just things crawling over skin and re-knitting nerves and muscle. So that's 2 that you've healed.
Yes. What time of night are we at this point?
About now, you're closing in on about 10 o'clock.
It's not
So
that
about
late.
2 hours after you started.
Great. Okay. She'll attempt another 2.
Okay. So this time, as you start focusing on it, the wound reaches a point where the bone is still visible. It's still clearly a horrific wound, and it's gone as far as it's willing to. But as you're focusing on it and you lift, the blade is still out. It's turned away so you don't see it. You watch as your arm, which is held at an angle, slowly resets itself as the bone shifts and locks back into place.
Yeah.
And the muscle begins mending, and the tendons and the ligaments, which have been stretched unhealthily, slowly begin pulling taut and realigning everything in your body. So, did you make the rolls?
Yep. Again, 1 success, 1 fail. So hunger 3.
So you're on hunger 3. Okay.
And
So, how much have you got left to heal?
I have 2 more to go after that of superficial, and then my point of aggravated.
Okay. Are you going to feed, or are you going to just continue healing?
No, I'm going to go and find a snack.
In very, very quick succession, the beast has gone from subdued, muted, feral purring at the very base of your subconscious to suddenly becoming very much roused and awaked by the fact that you are you are basically stealing the blood from it and forcing it through your body, performing these actions. And it is very, very, very much awake and alert at this point. And it's gone from being subdued but present to awake. And it's just as disorientating you, although in a very different, more worrying way than that sudden onset of emotions was when you were back in that flat.
So with that acute realization within her haven, the abandoned place that it is, she has a herd merit.
She has a herd
merit.
of...
So I have a herd merit that allows 2 hunger slaked a week.
Okay.
So I have 4 to 7
Remind me what
individuals.
this consists of.
This building is not only occupied by myself. There are a lot of
that's true.
people who carve out their own little places here, people who come and
That's
go.
true.
But regardless, there's enough here in the dark that she can take advantage.
So as you begin staggering out, and it's still very much staggering because every single time you move your head, you feel that wound just pull taut, almost as though it's threatening to widen. And you have to kind of stop yourself and just grip it to try and keep it in place. Your undead body is very unlikely to let it rip further, not without coercion, but that human part of you is saying you're stressing a wound. You're stressing a wound. It is subconsciously keeping that at the forefront of your mind as you stagger down to the stairs towards the wider theatre. And the actual theatre itself is very archaic. It is a beautiful theatre, but it is one that is gripped by old age and disuse. Disuse by anyone that wants to use it for the actual purpose. But hidden beyond the drapes, and hidden amongst the pews are various different bundles of blankets, different clothes, different items, different debris, different foods, different rubbish that makes it clear that this place is used by people that have taken up residence in this place that you share and occupy this rough area with. A few of them are up and speaking to one another, and not really anyone pays you any mind as you're coming through. But as you're moving along the catwalk, where you are currently connects up towards the catwalk, so you can get a proper look down towards people and take an assessment without marching in with a gaping wound. And you're looking around, and you can see that although there are people moving down beneath you, your attention is drawn towards, out of the corner of your eye, on the far side of the balcony, on this same catwalk, there is someone at the very far end that is currently sat with their legs dangling over the edge of this catwalk.
Are they awake? Or are they just...
Their legs are moving.
Do I recognize the individual, or is this just part of...
Can't really tell.
Can't really tell. How easy to sneak up on this person?
Pretty easy. They're not looking at you.
Cool. Easy pickings then. She won't say no to this, because her night's been fucked up already.
Okay. So you start moving around the edge, making your way over towards the end of this balcony, acutely aware of the fact that this is a very old catwalk and it does creak. So you take your steps slow and use the actual support to the edge of this catwalk to actually steady yourself as you're moving. And every now and again you stop, and you can hear a creak from the far end. You're about halfway towards them, and you stop and then hear the creaking from behind you again, and you stop, glance back, and then look, and that individual's not there.
She will take a fake breath just to steady. Look about for the individual to see if they've turned up anywhere else.
The catwalk does connect at the end and turn around the corner in amongst
I'm gonna go to where they were sitting.
Okay.
Is there anything there of interest? No.
Rusted metal.
Do I smell anybody?
Smell anyone?
Yeah. Smell like somebody was here.
I mean, the taking a breath, which you don't normally do unless you need to speak. Actually, no, you still have Blush of Life active, so you would still be sniffing. The place doesn't smell that appealing. It smells quite musty in the areas away from where people are living, but it does smell like quite a few unwashed individuals all living in close proximity. So especially when it's warmer, there is it's not the most appealing of smells, but it's nothing different than what you're used to in where you're standing.
She'll carry on. Given the beating that she's had, given everything else going on, it's not so weird if she's potentially seen stuff. So, if she can find another target, that will very much be the focus right now.
It won't take you too long. It takes a bit longer than your beast is comfortable with, but it's not yet at the point where it is guiding what you're doing. It's just being very, very loud and audibly disgruntled by the fact that you're not just doing what you need to fucking do. But before too long, one of the individuals does stagger off towards the direction of the toilets. And the toilets are probably one of the areas that smell the worst because the plumbing has not worked here for a while. But it's where this person goes on their own, and between them and the actual toilet, the moment they go through that door, you slip in behind them, move the door closed with your foot, and then as they turn, you just go in and begin feeding. So you can go back up to 1. Okay, so we'll pause there. Kit, before too long, you find yourself in a much more comfortable environment, an area that you are a hell of a lot more familiar with. It's the domain of Augusta, and you recognize this place so well, every detail about it. It's not like that horrible place you've just come from where you don't know anything about it. All the details are new to you, and it would take far too long for you to actually memorize and know things as much as you'd want to be comfortable. But this place you know quite well. And as you are approaching the domain and the vehicle pulls up, and again, the man holds out his hand expecting money. Again, it's far too high as a fare. Are you paying?
Yeah, Kit will just pay.
Okay, so he takes the money off of you and then just waits, expectingly staring at you, clearly expecting you to get out. It's almost like he's daring you to change the destination again. But as you kind of get out, you look towards the front of the hotel and you see that Mrs. Lawrence is already out front. She's sat on the steps and she has her roller with her. And she's just observing people as they're going past. And she's drawing quite a few looks because an old lady sat out around this time at night is an odd sight, but it's not yet so late that it would draw unwanted attention. It's just odd. And a few people look at her and she just smiles at them as they go past. Every now and again, when someone comes up to her and asks if she's all right, she just smiles and exchanges a word with her, with the individual that speaks to them. And then they just kind of wave and then move on, and she watches them go. And then just goes back to just sitting, almost like someone that's waiting for a lift.
So Kit will wait for the taxi to drive off. And once he's gone, he'll walk across and sit on the steps, not right next to her, but on the other side of the steps as such.
She doesn't initially watch you as you move past her. She clearly clocks you, and you always know that she'll clock you. You know that she knows where you are, and you sit off to the side, close enough to her, and certainly not behind her. I'm assuming.
No, not behind her. No.
No, so on level with her, where she can kind of
Step
watch you,
down or something possibly. Even.
and she's lowered the actual grip of the actual holdie, so it's just there in front of her, and she just smiles and observes, and seems to just be enjoying the actual outside atmosphere in front of this old hotel. It's odd to see you again. I don't see you this often, you know, Kit. Certainly not in so small space of time.
Kit will say, no, it's been an unusual night.
There are usual nights?
Well, sometimes things go...
There's
right.
predictable. There's certainly predictable nights, Kit. I wouldn't call any of them usual nights.
It's not been a predictable night.
No. I mean, I have a dead body up in my room. I wouldn't call that a usual night, Kit. That's dealt with, by the way.
Thank you.
Not a problem, dear.
We went to see the person that caused it, I thought.
She glances over at you.
It being dealt with doesn't stop them doing it again. So
The
we went...
situation's dealt with.
Whether it could be another situation. We were lucky that this situation's dealt with, but we thought there might be another situation. So we went to see what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't predictable.
She watches and makes sure that there is not a lot of foot traffic. And there isn't a lot. From where there is a parking space, obviously, where you guys parked up previously. But aside from that, most of this is just driving up past. So most of the vehicles just keep going. And there isn't a lot of reason for foot traffic to come this way. Most of the shops that they'd access are further back down that way, so they'd stop shy. So you're relatively safe speaking freely. But she checks nonetheless. And you're well aware that Augusta does have quite a very solid mastery of Auspex, to the degree where she's rarely caught off guard by things that you've ever experienced, at least. So if she is speaking freely, you are pretty confident that she is taking stock of her environment, regardless of when she is speaking or what she is saying. And those spider-like fingers just kind of like curl over the back of her knuckles, almost like they're stroking them as she's thinking on what you're saying. So you're anticipating further trouble, or you're anticipating further need of my help? Are you just here to vent?
I needed some advice. I don't know where the rest of my coterie has gone. We went... We found him. We found the cook, and he had some people with him, his coterie, I think, and he had a mortal in a room.
In what state was the mortal? A ghoul, perhaps?
Alive, breathing. I don't know whether he was a ghoul. He was not shocked when they were not hiding their nature from him.
I better hope he's a ghoul then. That's awfully...
He was locked in the room, but he behaved as if he was on their side.
He was locked in a room? It's an odd way to treat a ghoul.
It was very odd, and I don't know why. I think they took him to see Carmine. They got lost, but I lost track of them. It was a bit messy. I went in to see, and one of them could see me, and then I had to run. And I don't know what else happened. I think Lark pushed one of them out of a window, but I couldn't see her when I got down. And I haven't seen anyone since. I couldn't find them. I followed them to, I think they went to Carmine's. But
That's why you think they're taking this individual to Carmine.
They were talking about Carmine and the Second Inquisition. They said that as well before they found us. And First Light. I think this person, he might have been. They mentioned Andrew Foley, and he wasn't one of them. So I think this person might have been in Sergeant Andrew Foley. But
you think that's this individual? Hello.
And as she turns, you can see one of the stray dogs that's kind of sniffing and been slowly edging up. And she reaches into her bag and just pulls out what looks to be a cling film wrapped sandwich of something. And as she kind of peels it back, she starts offering it to the dog. And it seems like from that moment, you are completely blocked off to her senses. Although this isn't the first time that she does this kind of thing, but you are well aware that she's paying very much attention to what you're saying. But it's still disconcerting to just have her turn her back and just focus on something else. And she just seems to be giving the attention to this dog as she's feeding it.
Kit will just wait unless he knows that he should continue talking at this point. He will wait for her to finish.
Swings and roundabouts. But she's there and she doesn't rush. There's a good 5 minutes where it passes where she feeds this dog and then pets the dog and strokes it, and it just sits next to her. And it's odd that it does, because dogs don't tend to take well to Kindred by and large. Without some mastery over animals and without some specialty in dealing with animals, they don't tend to deal with them well. But this dog seems perfectly at ease in her attention, and she just strokes it with those long spider-like fingers. And then she just stops and then shifts back in her seat and looks back at you almost expectantly, like she's suddenly aware that you've stopped talking, and just kind of watches you.
But it feels bad to me. They had this person, they took him to Carmine, so that seems strange behaviour if he was a ghoul of theirs.
So what do you suspect is the case? I'm not aware of what you say that you've heard mention of the Second Inquisition and the number of names, but
this kind, he reached for, like, if he'd been carrying a gun, I'd have thought he'd reaching for a gun, but he didn't have one. It was just
that's unusual for kind to carry guns. Not in this country.
But a sergeant indicates possibly. I don't know. I was just confused, and I couldn't find anyone else to talk to, and I thought I needed someone to talk to.
That's understandable, Kit, and I'm happy for the company. Although I'd hope you come to see me not just because you ran out of other options.
Well,
I might keep this dog.
Kit will look at the dog a bit more carefully. He won't come close, because dogs don't like him, even if they like Augusta.
Augusta's pets never last. She does keep them.
Kit will say he looks a fine dog.
It's a she, Kit.
I'm not good with things like that.
No.
Well, and she twists, but as she turns and the attention stops going on the dog, she lowers her hand and grips it lightly, but grips it by the fur, almost as though she's going to stop it from moving off, and just turns her attention to you.
So your concern is that this individual is of use to the Anarchs, or you think they are
keeping him alive? They were taking him to Carmine. It seemed they thought he was of some value to them.
So what do you think is the issue?
Well, I mean, they planted that body in our domain. That was not a kind act. That was an act designed to cause trouble.
Agreed.
And this as well. I think something is happening, and I don't know what or why, and it concerns me. I don't know. I don't know what I should do. I don't like not knowing what I should do.
Have you discussed this with your coach? Oh no, you don't know where they are. That's a problem, Kit.
Yes.
Do you know if they're safe?
I didn't see them hurt. I don't know.
You said one went out a window.
Yes. She pushed...
The nice one.
Yes. Yeah, the nice one.
Granted, I haven't met the other one. You spoke with the other one.
Yes. Yeah. He came with us. He had the car. He was waiting. He's not so good at sneaking. But there were a lot of police, so I didn't go back to the car. I was following them, and
What's that? She points towards the area in your jacket where you have the stake poking out.
oh, I think possibly someone got staked, either Lark or the Anarch girl. I picked it up before I left. It didn't seem like a good thing to leave a stake with bits of Kindred on it. He'll hand it over.
She twists off the flesh and hands it back over to you.
So he'll take the stake
And opens up the bag and just puts it in. Puts it back and grips the handle.
Well, I think your current priority is to find your coterie mates. It sounds as though this is a joint issue. Why should it all fall on your shoulders to deal with, Kit?
Well, yes. They might have better ideas of what to do next. I just felt I needed to come and talk to you. Things make a lot more sense when I talk to you.
Well, I appreciate the sentiment, Kit. I like to think myself approachable, despite how little my wisdom is utilized by most people. I mean, not everyone's going to see eye to eye with a stuttering old fool. But, I like to think I speak sense now and again. With regards to this kind, you think he is tied to the Second Inquisition?
It's possible. Why would they? They were talking, and they mentioned this Andrew Fairley, and they mentioned.
And why is he alive?
Well,
and cooperating, from the sounds of what you've said.
I don't know. This concerns me. Why? What could they do with her? Why would he? I don't know.
Regardless, if they've taken him to Carmine, I'm afraid the window to find out more is denied you. Carmine is not someone you want to trifle with, Kit.
No, I tried to follow them there, but when I got there, I thought that it was better just to leave.
That was prudent. My recommendation, Kit, is to look for your coterie and try and make sense of the situation with their assistance. Maybe from the sounds of it, they'll be able to give more opinions and input on the situation. Especially since it sounds, based upon your window comment, that Lark was there with you. Maybe she knows more.
She did. She came through, and yeah, she might know more.
Then I recommend finding her and your coterie mate, the errant one, as a priority.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. I should go back and find them now then.
Was there anything else I can do for you, dear?
I think I don't know. I don't believe so. I think I'm okay now. I need to go and find them now, don't I? And
I do have something that you might discard in a bin on your way.
of course, yes, no problems.
It's a napkin that's tied with a string, and it looks to be like quite a bulging napkin with something in it. She just hands it over. It's quite a large napkin.
Okay. Is it
Close.
fit in a pocket? Okay. Or...
Yeah, I mean, with a bit of tucking.
How carefully would you like this disposed of?
Very.
Okay.
Your usual meticulous efforts will do.
Of
Just
course.
not in the vicinity of my domain. Or yours, Kit. Err on the side of caution.
Of course, yes.
But that should be significantly easier for you to disguise than a body, Kit.
Well, yes, I can cope with this.
I recommend blending it with salt.
Salt, of course.
If you do it in small parts, you can, over a period of time, get rid of it in progressives. People will, what they do under their food. Or not. If you do that, do a very small amount. It'll take a while, but it'll go in time.
Okay, of course. So Kit will put it in his pocket and start walking. Does Kit know who holds the domains between Augustus and his?
You know one or two names. You know it well enough that if you're willing to take your time, you could probably get back without too much issue.
So Kit will probably walk back. He'll take his time, and once he's gone out of Augustus' domain, he will check what's in the napkin, but he suspects it's someone's ashes.
It is someone's ashes.
Okay. So he'll
specifically based upon what you can see and what you know, because this is not the first time that she's ever done this method. It's bone. Powdered bone.
So Kit will take his time and sprinkle it places. He'll be quite careful. So he'll drop some down storm drains when he can. Into the cities, but
it's going to take you quite a while to get back. But based upon your knowledge of the domains, it's you can get back without too much issue, provided speed is not a concern.
It's still quite early, so I don't think Kit will worry about rushing back.
Okay.
It's that and bins and whatever else you can, just bits at a time. So it's very obvious. So you can be very meticulous about it. So.
Kit, Lark. Hi. So what are you doing now? You this individual has vanished. You're not sure where.
Yeah.
I mean, the walkway does go around. Maybe they just very quickly got up and moved. It's not like there's no end to this catwalk and they just suddenly...
No.
Ooh.
Probably would have heard from, but still, it's interesting.
Maybe. Assuming they're kind.
Assuming they're kind. She will... she's going to run the perimeter of her own domain, or her own haven, and do a quick security check of the building. And then, sorry, just before she does that,
by the way.
Not tonight, because tomorrow's going to be rough. She will, by the way, prior to doing this, she is going to change whatever she's wearing to try and mask the grievous wound that she has across her chest. If she has anything else that she can don that is dark and won't show too much blood and will cover the wound, she will change to that.
I mean, it would have been impressed upon you, the importance, especially when you went through your second embrace. Not something that so much would have been taught to you by your sire, but certainly in the second embrace, the idea of wearing dark clothes is quite a big one.
Yeah.
For that specific reason. So you probably would have gotten quite a few bits that you can wear and use to try and mask the injury. Ones that aren't ripped through with a serrated blade is a good way of doing it. Or with a blade, rather. So after you've dressed and you've started going around the perimeter of your haven, keeping careful eye, making sure that in the same way that Kit does it in your communal domain, you do it in a similar way. Maybe not quite so meticulous, obsessing over details, but you know the area. At an eyeball glance, you can check the area. And as you're making your way around it, you are very, very carefully trying to note position of cars, trying to recognize any individuals that draw your focus, and there isn't anything that immediately gets your attention.
Okay.
But you're cautious and slow anyway, just to be sure.
Yeah, of course. Basically, she's also biding her time for an hour or two before she will head back to the communal haven now that she's cleaned up. But she's going to take an incredibly winding route to get there. That lingering paranoia that somebody might be watching. But she needs to speak to her coterie mates regarding what happened. She can't let low for too long in case things get worse.
Okay. So you start making your way back. Both of you. Given that you are currently scattering ashes and you are making a very winding route, despite the fact that his Kit is coming from a much further distance, you get back roughly the same time. You would have had to have taken the time to properly heal, to properly feed, to safely feed, and make sure your domain is locked down, it's safe, and you're checking to make sure you're not being followed. Kit is moving at a slightly quicker pace, pausing only now and again to one, double check that he's not going through someone else's domain, and two, making sure that he can scatter safely and in very small quantities, as Augusta has always insisted. Small amounts. Very small amounts. And you do it progressively and only in places where it's not going to be picked up on. Making your way back. And you arrive maybe... Kit, you'll probably arrive about 20 minutes after Lark has. By the time you get back, it's probably about 35 minutes past 2 in the morning. And you are very, very happy to hear the so annoying of the door opening and then shutting behind you. There is no car out front. There is no sign of Daniel. Daniel is still not returned. But Kit would have arrived after Lark. Lark, what would you have done when you got back on your own? Anything of note?
She wouldn't have been lounging on her usual couch. She would be probably on the roof, watching for either one of these guys to come back. And actually, yes, that's all she's doing right now. She's keeping an eye out for them.
And Kit, you're not obfuscated, no?
Not coming back, no. He'll just walk normally. He's got a flash of light up as well, so...
Okay, so you'd make your way back and you would spy Kit, because Kit's moving in... The Malkavians. The Kit is moving in a not at the same speed as everybody else that is kind of blundering past. moving back and forth. It is very early in the morning. The only people that are really up at this point are the people that do not have work the next day. Mostly people that are working in the restaurants or similar, where their busy periods tend to be the weekends. So they might have the Monday off because it's the quieter day. So a few people are out and about, but not many. And so it's easy enough for you to spy Kit as he's coming back. And you spy Kit because he, unlike everyone else, is paying attention to the domain. Not in a kind of, overt, kind of obvious way, but his head's turning enough where it's clear that he's keeping stock of the environment. And you watch him as he comes down, and then right on cue of the metal door going.
Okay. She was waiting for that metal door because she doesn't... That thing that looked like Daniel didn't touch the door. She's a little paranoid. So as soon as that happens, she will head down.
Okay. So as you're making your way in, Kit, and you've closed the door behind you, making sure that it's closed properly, you can hear movement further in, and then you can see Lark re-emerging from the route that goes up towards the roof. And it takes you a moment to realize that she's not really standing in the same way that she does. It's hard for you to discern what it is because you can't really tell much about your companions on a social level, but you can physically tell that tell physically that she is kind of favoring one side more than the other. Despite the fact it was caused by a mortal, Akine weapon, the injury is savage enough where it is clearly supernatural. And as a result, you're kind of forced to favor the one side, because if you go the other way, Lark, it feels like the wound's being pulled open. It's almost like the muscle that kind of holds the arm muscle up has been severed to the degree where your arm dips. So you're kind of having to lean into it to compensate for it. So it looks like she's uneven, or that she's standing on uneven ground, and you have to fight the urge to kind of tilt your head to kind of match it, just to make her straight.
Very well.
But Lark is there. Yeah, so
he's not going to have the urge to not do that.
Yeah. So Lark is there. Lark is there before you.
So Kit will watch her a little bit. He's, after the other night, he's not going to come too close until he's sure that she's in a good mood. So just stand.
Just one time.
And he'll wait for her to say something.
She'll look you over as though checking to see if you're alright as well. And not suspicious, but cautiously will eventually speak. You got out alright?
Yes. They were surprisingly quick, but I got out okay. And you went out the window, I think. I picked up a stake with bits of someone on, but that was the other girl, the Maria.
Yeah, that wasn't
I didn't
my
think
handiwork.
I didn't think it was good to leave that. I followed them afterwards, but they got on a bus and I lost them. I think they were going to see Carmine. I tried to go and look, but it's not safe enough there, I think, so I came back.
Sort of her turn to tilt her head now. How do you know they took him to her?
I don't know for sure. They were talking about Carmine, and then they went that direction. The bus they got on went there, so it seems logical that they were going there. I don't know who that guy was. He was immortal.
What was he? Sorry.
He was not shocked to see. He was not shocked to see the Nosferatu, or how they moved. and then he just walked freely with them. They were talking about the Second Inquisition, and they were.
He went freely with them, even though he'd been locked up.
He walked with them. He wasn't locked. They were surrounding him.
Mm.
But when I went in the room, they had locked him in with that chair. They blocked the door. But when I went in, he shouted for them. That's why they all started attacking. I didn't know who he was. I knew he was important. I didn't think he would shout because the door was open. I thought he would leave, and he didn't. He shouted, and then they all came in.
Did they see you?
Sorry?
Did they see you?
One of them could see me. The cook, I think it was the cook. He could see me. He had a machete. The Nosferatu one, he couldn't see me, but he was quite quick anyway. But they didn't want to hurt that kind. But he was also locked up. It was strange, and I don't know what to think. He was important.
Yeah.
But I don't know what we should have done with him. Well, I don't think we can do anything now. I think he's with Carmine.
Yeah.
They were talking about the Second Inquisition. That worries me. The mortal, he acted like he was used to carrying a gun. And they were talking about Andrew Foley. I know they were saying names to each other. They had Colin, and that was the cook, and he was there. And Maria, and I think that was the lady with the bag that you pushed out the window. And they said Winslow, and I think that must have been the Nosferatu, but it could have been the other one. And then they said Andrew Foley and Sergeant Foley, and I think maybe that was the mortal. He acted like he was used to carrying a gun, so maybe he was a sergeant, but maybe he was Second Inquisition, or maybe he knew something. I don't know why he was there and not dead.
That is my concern. Do you think Daniel might know anything? Have you seen him?
I haven't, no. I tried following them rather than go back, and I thought he'd be back here by now. He was by the park, wasn't he?
He was. He's been gone for hours now.
And the police cars came from the park. So I don't know whether there were more, whether he got into trouble. Do you think we should go to the park and see?
I don't think we should go back to that territory so soon.
Okay, yes, he did see me. It was not good. He almost caught me. Are you okay? You fell out the window. You don't look right.
I've certainly been better. And she will, for theatric sake, just show him a bit of the wound that's across her chest.
Did the Anarch do that?
The night's been rough, so I need to lay a little low until I'm back in fighting shape.
Okay, well, nods. We need to do something, I think. There's something going on.
Yeah.
Why did they start attacking us with the dead bodies? And then this other guy, there's something going on, and
Do we have anyone besides Daniel we can speak to who might know more about the sergeant? We have a name?
I talked to Mrs. Lawrence, but she said it was something that we had to sort out. She didn't seem to know the name, but she said I should go and talk to you and Daniel. So perhaps we should try and find Daniel, but I don't know. I don't know how to find Daniel. Do you think he's at his other haven?
I actually don't know where his other haven is. Do you know?
I don't think I know.
Do we know?
No.
No.
Daniel would have kept it to himself.
Hmm.
You guys have never had cause so far to know this shit.
No. No.
So we can either go back to the park and see if Daniel's still there, or wait for him and hope he comes back, I guess.
Do you think it's wise? Do you think we could get there and have a look without... I mean, maybe they fled as well. You said that they left.
They left, yeah. I don't think they'd come back. There were police there. I don't think they'd come back. Perhaps tomorrow we could go and have a look round and see if there's anything else left in the building, but
What's
if
the
the
worry
police,
about?
I don't think there was anything.
And it'll take a bit for them to clear the area from us.
But I'm worried about what they'll do to us now.
Well, if anything, maybe we've deprived them of a haven. Maybe they won't go back.
Maybe.
Maybe. I don't know where to go from here, to be honest. Unless he's kind, that can't be that hard to look into his name this day and age.
It depends. If he is second Inquisition or something like that, then it could be dangerous looking for his name.
Yeah.
Mrs. Lawrence said we should talk to Daniel as well. We need to find Daniel. That's the important thing, I think.
Well, we could go back if we're careful enough. Tonight, we have the time.
I could get a car. We could take it back and see.
Right.
We can look for Daniel's car at least.
Yeah. As long as we hang back enough. Okay.
Okay. So, Kit will head out then, I guess.
Okay. Any preparation before you want to depart?
He's still carrying most of his stuff for adventures. He's got his lockpicks and things. He'll make sure he's got things for breaking into cars.
Okay. Lark?
She still has her knife on her. She's pretty much got everything she needs.
Okay. In which case, as you guys begin gearing up to go out and find your errant coterie mate and try and formulate some sort of response and try and make sense of everything that's gone on, that's where we're going to have to bring it to a close, purely because we've run out of time, unfortunately. But we will continue this over the play-by-post, as mentioned. Might try and bring that into a more public thing in the future, potentially. We'll discuss it and see whether or not that's what we want, where we're going to go with it. But thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. Get well soon, Sass. We love you. And you didn't kill anyone this time that these guys are aware of. So it's already +1 on this. Great. Was there any other things or anything anyone else had to say?
Just to show off my amazing t-shirt.
Yes. With the awesome art by our lovely Smeesh. Thanks very much to Mitch for running the tech, the stuff that I can't make sense of. And thank you very much, guys, for joining us. I know it ran a little bit over, but I was trying not to cut it off mid-thing. So hopefully we'll be able to regale you with more stories about this coterie at some point in the future. And thank you very much for joining us. And awesome. You're all awesome. Love you loads. And I will see you again at some point in the future, undoubtedly, with more horrific things, and nobody died. See?
You're way behind Peter on the body count.
Yeah.
So.
I mean,
Yeah, that poll. You all lost. Right. Take care, guys. Love you loads. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.